So let me get my speech here. So I'm George Shepard, Chair of the Conservation Commission, and I call this meeting of the Conservation Commission to order. Members present remotely are Navneet Hundai. We have George Shepard, Melissa Webster, and Sylvia Willard. Members, remotely connected are conservation agents Megan Sullivan. I need to update this. And Noelle Beeland, who's the administrative assistant. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by telephone or Zoom web, as posted in the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants may be able to hear you, and anything else that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. It's more important now because we're using AI technologies to write up the notes. All participants should keep their phones or microphones muted unless recognized by me. I will call on each speaker to address the commission. If you wish to address the commission, please click the raised hand icon or ask to speak by posting a request in the chat feature. Please identify yourself at the start of your remarks. All right, we are off and running. So Megan, we're going to Cranberry Bog updates.
Yes.
So do you want to start or to return right to Ryan?
I can summarize the item and then maybe I'll hand it off to Ryan.
Well,
So yes, this is a Cranberry Bog update. The item is review and approval of invitation to bid package for Cranberry Bog Dam Number 1, Phase 1 Rehabilitation Project, which is DEP file number 1251147. And yes, Ryan, our town administrator, is joining us to answer any questions that the commission may have, but I think he wanted to make sure you all had a chance to look it over before we put it out. So, do you want me to share it, Ryan, or do you already have it pulled up?
Yeah, if you can share it, that'd be great.
Sure.
The commission has seen this and seen these before. We handle most of the legal requirements for the procurement process. The main portion for you is approving and understanding and improving the scope of work. So right now, as you know, Megan is working with a contractor, Sumco, to do the emergency repairs. This would be the phase one repairs, everything past the emergency, but before the phase two, which is the parts of the dam repair that would be informed by the hydraulic study that's going on currently. So if you're good with the scope of work, and we want to make sure you are before we put this out to bid, then we will put it out to bid and likely see work begin as soon as we stop getting 1 to 2 feet of snow every week.
every week.
Looks like it for the next couple.
So Megan, you want to go down to the
Yeah, I was
right?
just
Here we
gonna
go.
comment. The scope of there's Appendix A, which scope of work includes the site plan, Conservation Commission order of conditions, and Office of Dam Safety permit. So the scope of work I can pull up now, but I believe the commission already approved of this document, so maybe this is kind of more of a formality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Me too. It was phase one.
hmm
So do we need a motion to approve the package as submitted?
I would like one just so that everyone's aware that this is the commission's IFB. We're just executing it for you, and then we will bring the results. So this is a situation where we have to accept the lowest qualified bidder. So we'll be bringing you the final selection for your approval and contract within the budget that was, what was that, Sylvia, 3 years ago now? the CPA money that was set aside for this dam repair.
I so move.
Second it, anyone?
Second.
Thank you. We'll take a roll call vote. Navneet?
Aye.
See, Brian's not here. Melissa?
Aye.
Sylvia? You're
Sylvia?
muted, Sylvia.
All right. Sorry about that. Aye.
And the chair votes aye, the motion passes.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right, I don't like to miss a chance to thank my staff, so past and present. So Sylvia started a lot of this work. She was the one that informed me that it needs to be done and did much of the legwork. And of course, Megan has picked up that baton. So thank you to them for all the work they did on this. And please, God, can we repair this dam?
Yes, please, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
So Megan, there are two other items underneath this. Do we?
Yeah, so Julie's gonna be joining us, but I told her not to join us yet, so she'll be on later.
Okay.
So we
And-
could just
George, this Nick has joined.
Good, thank you.
And Brian,
Wow. We have a super majority. So we're going to delay that until Julie gets here. The Sumco presentation, was there a time for that? It says 7 p.m.
Yes. So Sumco is proposing to present their ground penetrating radar findings of the Cranberry Bog Dam number 1 on January 29th at 7 p.m. remotely.
Okay.
So there'll be a link to that. This will be advertised on the town website and the meeting link posted, since I anticipate that there will be a quorum there. Does that date sound good for commissioners who may want to attend? Before, so I can confirm it.
Works for me.
it's fine. Can I recommend you also let the Trails Committee know, since their trail goes right over the top of the dam?
Sure.
Okay. So it's not 7:15 yet. Do you want to run through some bills quickly, Megan?
I would love to.
Oh, your favorite thing, I know.
This is my favorite one.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yes, so the first bill is for WB Mason. Actually, the first two are WB Mason. One is for $57.74 for ink cartridge for our printer, and that's paid out of the office supplies line item. And then the second is just for a new stamp with the last one expired because it only went to 2025, so we needed one for 2026. That's $11.09, also from the office supply line item. The third bill is from Carlisle Rubbish for $60, and this is for the cost of the transfer station. And this is paid from LSC's repair and maintenance budget. And then the last bill is from Weston and Sampson for $302, and this is for the Greeno H&H study, which is being paid from the CPA funding. So that's those.
Can I get a motion to accept the bills as proposed?
So moved.
Second.
Ryan? And Melissa, thank you very much. We'll take a roll call vote. Now that we have all these people here. Navneet,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, the motion passes.
Can I just say, for those who are not aware of it, all the documents that come into the conservation office need to be stamped with by received and the date received, and that's the stamp that ran out. And
Yes.
so we need a new year or a new group of years.
All right, we still have 2 minutes before 7:15. Do we want to, can we get through the minutes from 11/20/25?
That's reasonable. I can pull them up quickly. I didn't get any edits from anyone, but if anyone has any now, that's fine too.
Well, somebody put edits in.
That was me.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I agree with your edits. Let's put it
Yes.
that way.
I read through it and I had no problems.
Okay.
I had no edits.
How did you all feel about the new AI tool? Summarizing more than kind of transcribing.
I think it did a good job myself,
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay.
but we're going to keep tracking it, so we'll see what happens. All right, so can I get a motion to accept the minutes from 11/20/25?
So moved.
Brian,
Second, Sylvia.
Sylvia, thank you very much. We'll take a roll call vote. Sylvia, Melissa,
Aye.
Good. Melissa,
Abstain, I was out of the country.
well, I'm glad you're back, but okay. Brian,
I was in the country. I had nowhere else to go.
as usual. Okay, Nick,
Aye.
Navneet,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion passes. All right. Let's close it up to 7:15. Let's go back to our starting point, which is back at 2 pages. Sorry, guys. I always do everything. I only have one screen here, so I can't do multitasking. So we have a public hearing on the notice of intent. The EP file is TBD. The location is 812 Maple Street, Reno Conservation Land, owned by the applicant, Town of Carlisle. This is a removal of invasive Japanese knotweed through a combination of livestock grazing, herbicide treatment, and smothering and ecological restoration within bordering lands subject to flooding or riverfront area, bordering vegetated wetlands in the 100-foot buffer zone. So, Megan, you put in a pretty good summary here. Do we want to hear from, is there an applicant that would like to
So,
address this?
yeah, so this project was actually started before me. So it was started when Sylvia was still the conservation administrator. So I'm kind of picking up the baton from here as well. Um, but the town is the applicant, and the conservation staff has kind of been working to get this filing submitted. So I'm going to give a presentation tonight if that's all right.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Um, just so you guys know, it also did get a DEP number. So it's DEP 125-1208.
Thank you,
25,
Noah.
1208.
You're welcome.
Great.
Sorry, can you repeat that number?
It's 125-1208.
1208. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm sure you'll probably know this background, but I'll go over it anyways. The Greeno barn was removed in 2024 and only loamed and seeded, leaving it highly vulnerable to invasive species colonization. This portion of Greeno land provides habitat for the Blandings turtle and the Britton's violet, and this newly cleared area has the potential to provide additional habitat to these species, but it is instead being encroached upon by Japanese knotweed. And you can see that in these pictures here. So Japanese knotweed is obviously taking over this area as shown. Since the establishment of knotweed in this area is fairly new, the town still has a chance on preventing long-term establishment of the knotweed and other invasives in the area, and should take action to manage this area in a way that benefits the wetland resources and priority species that are found here. If left untouched, the knotweed will spread into the newly cleared area, increasing the difficulty of restoration. The town aims to conduct a more thorough habitat restoration on the site, but for this restoration to be successful in the long term, proactive invasive species removal is essential first. So that's what we're trying to do. So this is just a map showing the approximate area of where the knotweed is currently. And the project area is located on the town line between Carlisle and Barica, which you can see just to the right of those red boxes is that town line. And I thought it was important to note that support letters have been received for this project from Billerica Conservation Commission, Carlisle Conservation Fund, and the Land Stewardship Committee when we were seeking funding for this project. So we did get approval from all of those entities, which is great. I'll pull up a surveyed site plan a little later so you can see the knotweed removal areas relative to jurisdictional wetland resource areas, but for now I just have a couple more slides. So the methodology of the Japanese knotweed removal, we have a few different methodologies. So first we plan to enlist local livestock using goats from Clock Farm to reduce the vegetation mass on knotweed by defoliating the plants and making them more vulnerable to additional treatment methods. We tentatively have this scheduled for May or June of this year. The use of livestock, particularly goats, to reduce vegetation mass does not require the physical removal and transport of knotweed stalks and rhizomes. The seeds and plant fragments, once digested and excreted by the goats, are not viable for regrowth due to the high acid level in their rumen. Therefore, the size of the knotweed stands can be significantly decreased while avoiding expensive removal strategies that also carry the risk of spreading the plant further. And this strategy has been successful in a few areas in the Northeast, including Connecticut, and Vermont, and actually in Canada as well. And then the second strategy is herbicide applications. So we plan to apply herbicide to the remaining stems and stumps after they're grazed. And this is tentatively scheduled for July or August of this year. Herbicide is an effective management strategy when used properly. A licensed applicator is required for this work, and attention must be paid to specifications of wetland-safe herbicides and any potential impacts to surrounding habitats. However, when timed appropriately and applied properly for the seasons when knotweed is taking in nutrients through its stems, herbicides can be an effective control method. And then the third method is geotextile fabric smothering. And smothering can be a time-consuming method of knotweed management, but it has had widespread success. It's best used with other strategies such as physical removal, livestock consumption, and herbicide, which is why we're proposing all three of these methods in unison. And it can take up to 3 to 5 years to achieve this.
Wow.
And by smothering the plants with layers of black landscape fabric and wood chips and building up a layer of soil with compost and other organic materials over time, native plants can later be reestablished. So those are our methods. And then I just wanted to note some efforts after the treatment because as we all know, invasive species are very persistent. So it's more than just managing them for a few years. You kind of have to stay with it. So I just wanted to note that we're not going to do any plantings in the treated area until all herbicide treatment is complete. And so some of our follow-up methods are we would restore the area through native species plantings and seeding. Native plants will be planted in the areas which are located near the natural wooded area adjacent to the project area. The area which is currently lawn or exposed sand and dirt will be overseeded with a native grass seed mixture and wildflower mix, which promotes soil stabilization, vegetative cover, and provides habitat for local pollinator species. We would have annual compliance or inspection reports submitted to the Conservation Commission by November 15th of each year for a total of 3 years following the planting. And then any invasives that are found during these inspections of the restoration areas will be removed, and then we'll have conservation staff execute some ongoing monitoring. And I also wanted to note, although we have an idea of what the restoration areas will look like, the planting plan with specific details of the native species actually isn't quite ready yet. So we're hoping to have that submitted in February for the commission's review. And so how this all relates to the Wetlands Protection Act, of course, it's within your jurisdiction. But I wanted to note that the project has been submitted as an Ecological Restoration Limited project, which requires improvement of the natural capacity of the wetland resource areas to protect the interests identified in the Wetlands Protection Act. So treatment of invasive knotweed and restoration with native species improves and protects wildlife habitat values, which is an interest of the act. And so I've noted the wetland impacts below. So there's temporary alterations to the bordering vegetated wetland, bordering land subject to flooding, and riverfront area. The total treatment area is 26,877 square feet. And those three resource areas I have listed overlap, so that's why the total it doesn't add up with all the square footage you see here because there's overlapping there. And then I just wanted to note that all alteration to wetland resource areas are temporary in nature and will not negatively impact the resource areas, but will instead provide an improvement. And we're not proposing any earthwork activities or anything like that. And then, let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to get to my site plan, but my Zoom screen is in the way. 1 second. Okay, there we go. Can you see the site plan now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the site plan. We had a professional wetland scientist hired to do the delineation. Unfortunately, this time of year we can't confirm the delineation yet, since there's snow and it seems like there's going to be more and more snow and frozen ground coming our way. But this is the plan that we had put together for us. You can see the edges of Greeno Pond are delineated here with wetland flags. We have the 100-foot buffer zone shown on here. And then you can see the three treatment areas. So on the right side of the site plan, we have area 1 and area 2 pretty close together. And then on the left side of the plan, we have area 3. So those are all the treatment areas that we're proposing to execute those 3 treatment methods. And I think that's everything, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
So I've got 2 questions. The question is there knotweed in Billerica that's going to respread back into Carlisle?
I'm sure that there is some over the line, but I think if you keep maintaining like our area, then I feel like that will be effective enough because there's kind of knotweed everywhere. But I understand the question you're asking because sometimes it does seem silly to treat a small area if you know there's more knotweed close by. But unfortunately, if we think too big picture, it feels like we might not be able to do anything about it. So we're just trying to focus our efforts on this piece of land for which we can have an effect on.
So does Billerica, have any interest in knotweed removal on their property? Maybe they don't know about it.
Well, the Billerica Conservation Commission sent us a letter of support and said that we didn't need to file with them, even though we'll be close to their property line. So I know they're at least aware.
All right.
But
Okay.
I think I think what you're saying is important. I think it is important for communities, neighboring towns to collaborate on invasive species removal because if you all do it in unison as a joint effort, it's a lot more effective. So it's definitely something we can consider reaching out about.
I think Jonathan has something to say.
Before he does, can I say something as a commissioner? I just wanted to
Sure.
ask what, if you even know, Megan, what herbicides would be used to treat the remaining stumps of the knotweed?
I do have it. I think it's a mix. I don't know the chemicals off the top of my head, but I can find it right now because I think we got a quote for it
Thanks.
a while back. I'll search for that right now.
Megan,
Mhm.
And George, when this first came up, John Mativi and I went over and met with Isabel Turcantonis, who's my counterpart in Billerica. And she was very supportive, and we agreed to send them the filing. I believe she didn't feel that it was necessary to actually file. The land that's in Billerica that you see here is actually CCF land. So CCF may have some comments about treating on their land. That may be why Jonathan is here. My other question is there going to be established a limit of work when it comes to the treatment and removal, chewing, etc., of the knotweed? Any erosion control after the soil is completely devoid of vegetation, for example, or has got all the bark mulch, etc., on it? So it's limited work, erosion control, and CCF is my comments.
So for the limit of work in regards to the goats, the farmer did say he would put up a fence, I think temporarily, so it would be restricted. We also know that Britain's violet is in the area, so that's something we'd be careful about monitoring. Excuse me, monitoring beforehand. But yeah, there would be a limit of work for the areas, so that we can make sure that the goats aren't just grazing everything on the property. But my understanding is that these areas are stands of knotweed that's kind of like a monoculture. There's not really much else there. But outside of that, yeah, we would want to be restrictive. And then I think the erosion control is a good idea once the ground is more bare, maybe putting some mulch or something down, or wood chips or something like that to make sure that the sediment doesn't run into the pond.
So, Jonathan, you had something that you could answer here?
Yeah. So Jonathan DeCock, 130 Oak Knoll Road. I am a board member of the Carlisle Conservation Foundation, and in fact, my function there is Director of Land Management. The land adjacent to Carlisle in Billerica is owned by the Carlisle Conservation Foundation, and I am personally responsible for that land. So I can answer your question, George, from what about Billerica? And so partly I want to say, you'll notice even on your map here that it says approximate town line. The exact location of the town line is not well delineated there. So we're perfectly happy on the Carlisle Conservation Foundation if you eliminate stuff that happens to cross into our territory. In fact, we would prefer that you do so. Also, the portion of that land that is going into Billerica, the original Japanese knotweed was solely in Carlisle, and this has been going on for some 7 years and has spread into Billerica. And so if we really want to get into the details, CCF would be dissatisfied with Carlisle's lack of progress so far in managing this, causing it to spread onto our land. So yes, we definitely prefer if you take care of it.
So
Right.
do we have an idea how much land in Billerica we would have to clear in addition to what we have in Carlisle?
As you can see on the diagram here, it's almost an inconsequential amount. It's, a few square feet.
Okay. But it sounds like you said it's even more invasive than Billerica than just that little area.
No, that's it's only from the area in Carlisle.
Okay.
So
So I would hope that we could recommend that during the clearing activity, we take care of all the weed within X number of feet of the Carlisle Billerica line.
Yeah, and since it's not well
Let me
defined, I
ask
think it
one
would
more.
be hard for you to not take care of it.
Got
Um,
it. Okay, makes
so
sense to me. One more question. Do we have to remove the fabric after the 3 years, or does it decompose, or what happens to it?
So, my understanding is that I think some people do leave it, because I think you can do either. I wouldn't want to leave it if it wasn't, um, biodegradable, personally. It feels like bad practice on a conservation land, but certainly if the commission had a preference, then that's what we would do, since this is your land.
I presume it's water permeable, though, right?
Yes, I believe so. Well, yeah, I believe so.
All right. Well, I mean,
Could we selectively remove it as we fill in with native grasses and other plantings?
there's
Yes,
a
I
lot more
think so.
effort, Melissa, than I think what's proposed.
Yeah, okay. Just all right.
I mean, I also want to note that's kind of like the last method that we have. So I think the smothering really depends on the effectiveness of the smothering is really going to depend on how effective the grazing and herbicide treatments are. Because if we're able to weaken the knotweed to a large degree and then smother it, we have a good chance at basically eradicating it or getting most of it. But if those treatments aren't as effective, I don't know if the smothering will be as effective. So there's a lot of components to it. Invasive species treatment is difficult, and especially with Japanese knotweed. But my understanding is that before I got here, Sarah Wasserman and Noel, and I think Bethany, who was the previous conservation assistant, and Sylvia, they all worked on this. I think they were trying to come up with not innovative, but yeah, like creative ways to try to manage knotweed because people have tried a lot of different um, methodologies and they don't always work. So this is a creative solution, I think, and we're going to give it our best try, but we're not totally sure exactly which effort's going to be the most effective out of the three. So we'll see what happens. But again, certainly if you want us to remove the fabric after a couple years, we're happy to do that.
Well, I don't, Sylvia, I see your hand, but a quick
Yes,
point here.
yes.
Before I go to you, um, has someone else actually used this technique, including the fabric and so on, and what's the history?
Yes, there are numerous studies that are referenced. So at Connecticut College, Huntington in the Mad River Valley in Vermont, and then in British Columbia, are three different studies that have effectively used this fabric. I've seen it used just personally walking around places. I don't know what effectiveness it had. I've just seen it on walks, but I know that it is used pretty often.
Okay, so it has been applied successfully by others.
Yes.
And okay, all right, that's pretty good recommendation. Sylvia.
Yes, about the Britain's violet, the rare species that's also on the Greeno property. I know where it is.
Okay.
However, I think it would be a really good idea to monitor before you get started with goats and with herbicides, the area that's I guess it's south. It would be to the beyond the B in Billerica, and that area over there to the left of the screen. Before you tackle that, it likes to become established in areas that are subject to flooding. The population that has been monitored for many years over there is not in this area, but I'm not sure anyone has really looked over there. They may have, and I just don't know about it. I know where it is. And this project, from my understanding, wouldn't threaten it. But I believe that area over there really needs to be checked before it gets tackled with goats and herbicides.
So what was the plant that you were
It's
referring
called
to?
Britain's violet. It is a listed species for the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. The notice of intent and the procedures in there do show a picture of it. It's in another area of town as well, but it's a very rare, fairly rare plant, and small. And you can Google it and find it, but it does like to grow in areas that get flooded. But it's
Okay.
really over on the other side of the outlet from the Greeno Pond. Yes, that's it. It's down. I'm not going to tell you exactly where it is. They'd have to put me away, you know. But in June, I'll take Megan down, and if somebody else wants to go, they can come with it, so I can show it to
Oh
them.
my God. That'd be such an honor.
If somebody else from the commission wants to go as well. And I will say that I did go down there to look for it last summer, but it was too late. It was out of season then. I didn't see any.
Well, it can't hurt, Sylvia, to alert the committee that you'll be going to visit the Britain's violet.
Yep.
And those who would like to come are
Yep.
welcome.
Okay.
That would be good.
But be sure to monitor this area over here before you get going with the goats and the herbicides, just to take a look,
Okay.
because I've never looked over there, and I don't know if anybody else has.
Okay.
So Megan, when will we actually would deploy well, I see that this is going to be a continued issue, but when do we think we would actually deploy the goats?
Our hope is that we can deploy the goats this spring. So like our goal is May or June of this year. And then following that grazing, we would have an herbicide applicator come out and treat the knotweed probably a couple times over the summer or fall. And then after that, we would determine if we should do the smothering. We also have to keep working on getting funding for this, so this is all tentative. But we wanted to at least get the scope of the work permitted first. And so, as I noted before, we can't confirm the delineation yet because it's wintertime. And we also need to get you the restoration plan that will have the specificities of what native plants and seed mixes will be going in and where that will be. So in the meantime, while we work on that, I also have notes to incorporate erosion control once the area is grazed, a defined limit of work, and then monitoring of the area to just make sure that there's no Britain's violet in the area before the goats and herbicide come to the site. Is there anything else we should be incorporating before we come to you next?
I think you've covered it. I just have a quick question for Sylvia. So if we do the goats in May, June timeframe, is the Britain's violet going to be edible at that time?
I would suggest they start at the northern end. And if you would like, once you get going on that end, why don't you call me out, and maybe someone from CBCF can answer the question as to whether that area has been monitored for the Britain's violet. It would not surprise me if they had at all.
Okay.
But we can put our heads together and work this out.
Okay.
I agree with you. So Megan, going back to your notes here, because of the winter delineation policy, wetland flagging cannot be confirmed yet. And we're also waiting for well, you have the DEP file.
Yeah, now we have that, yep.
Right. So this must be continued.
Yes, exactly.
So do you have a recommended date where we should continue it to?
I'm gonna say, just to be more realistic with my bandwidth and time, maybe if we continue it to the February 26th meeting,
Okay,
that would be helpful.
I think that would make sense. So can I get a motion to continue this issue until the CONSCOM meeting on February 26th?
Time,
Sylvia? Good.
time? A particular time or just,
I don't know what time yet. We can make a time.
Can I get a second, please?
the second?
Well, I thought you offered it up. Who did the
Second.
prime? Thank you, Melissa. So we'll take a roll call vote, please. Navneet,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Thank you all. All right. Sure. 7:30, so we can move on to the public hearing for the WPA violation. Location is 509 South Street. Property owner is Jesse Pescatore. So this was unpermitted filing of bordering vegetated wetlands and associated 100-foot buffer zone.
Yes.
So Megan, do you want to talk first, or do we have the owner present or a representative?
I can give a quick summary, and I know that Jessie is here. And I think she
Okay.
said she has to hop off at 8. So actually, maybe Jessie, if you want to go first, I know you have a time crunch.
Well, I am concerned that you'll do a better job explaining it than me, but
Okay.
so why don't you start and then I'll add anything
Okay.
that you missed.
Sure. So just a summary for everyone. There was a violation first observed at the property in August of 2025. The commission discussed this at their August 28th meeting and asked the property owner to hire a professional wetland scientist to delineate the wetlands so we could determine how much wetland was filled, and to also come back to the commission once this was done to discuss restoration next steps. So I was able to meet the wetland scientist on site at the end of November. They were able to actually find an old delineation of the wetlands, which was really helpful because given the current conditions and the alteration of the area, it would have been really hard to delineate it now. So that worked out well. We have a good idea of where the wetlands are and what has been filled. So now we're just waiting for the property owner to contact the surveyor to get the delineation and propose restoration plan on a surveyed and stamped plan. So right now, and the reason I put this on the agenda was first to update the commission, but also I wanted to recommend issuing an enforcement order. Mostly because since the violation, we've been getting voluntary compliance, and that's all that's really required right now without an enforcement order. But issuing the enforcement order would just mean that the property owner is required to submit the restoration plan. So we can set a time limit on that. The form actually requires it. So I just proposed, let's see, March 23rd, which is 2 months from now, but if the commission wants a different date, that's totally fine too. And so, in speaking to the wetland scientists, I know that there's a restoration plan in the works, but as I mentioned, it's not yet put on a plan. So I think they're planning on removing the fill from the wetland, and possibly keeping some of the alteration in the buffer zone as lawn. So, as that gets worked out, and depending on what the property owner's preference is, the commission could, in the enforcement order, just require submission of a restoration plan to restore the entire altered area back to its existing conditions, or they could require submitting a restoration plan for fill of the wetland and in parallel submit an after the fact notice of intent filing for the other work that could be permitted. Does that all make sense? That was a lot of information all at once.
Um, the two options don't make a ton of sense to me, but I'm sure that I'm not who you're asking.
Yeah, that's more a commission decision. But
Yeah,
I think it's good that you're here with us tonight to show good faith effort in trying to get a restoration plan made up.
yeah, and I can speak a little bit on I mean, the delay is like we're waiting for Stamsky, and when, of course, like when we were up, the ground is covered with a lot of snow, so they just have to come back and mark out where the wetland scientist had delineated. And then he's going to make, my understanding is that then he draws up like a comprehensive plan with a map. So I think we're just waiting for some snow to melt before Stamsky can come back out and put more stakes in.
Great.
So Megan put in a date of the 23rd of March. As we approach that date and the snow is still 8 feet deep,
No.
maybe you can recommend a later date if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Megan, what do we as a Conservation Commission need to do at this point?
So I just recommended issuing an enforcement order, which would require a restoration plan to be submitted, which I think we've already agreed upon. I think Sylvia has a question, so maybe I'll let her go first.
Yes, I remember this project when it was permitted originally. And it was tough to fit everything into the site. The site really had a very, very tiny little house, and it needed a lot of clearing and a septic system and a well, and the house that's there now. The commission tried very hard to give them some backyard, but to stay far enough away from the wetlands. And it's sad to see what's happened. And there was a stone wall there that meant to be sort of the barrier. This is going to be not only just a restoration project, it's going to need to be followed to make sure that it continues to improve over at least a couple of years. And I would recommend having them file a notice of intent in tandem with an enforcement order, just to make sure that everything gets done and completed the way it should. None of us are in total control of our lives. And what if all of a sudden they have to move, for example? So it would be, I think, tying all the knots to be able to have a notice of intent along with the enforcement order. That's my personal feeling. It's been done before.
And I
So
think
Jesse, sorry, go ahead, Megan.
I was just going to say to Sylvia's point, if this helps clarify the two separate mechanisms, the restoration plan would really be for restoration of the fill of the wetland and plantings and things like that. The notice of intent would, in some capacity, overlap with that, but it would also allow them to do like what can be permitted under the Wetlands Protection Act, which, filling of a wetland isn't. But there could be some work in the buffer zone that they possibly could be able to do. That would be up to the consultant. But I think I tend to agree with Sylvia's recommendation, because when you have violations without the notice of intent or order of condition being recorded at the Registry of Deeds, there's nothing that ties that violation to the property with just an enforcement order. So it would be helpful to have both.
Well, the NOI gives the owner some flexibility on what else they would like to do with the property, which I
Yes.
think should
Yes,
be
exactly.
Yes.
appreciated by the owner. So it gives them, some opportunity to make changes.
Exactly. Yeah, if you just did the restoration plan, you'd basically be asking them to return it to exactly how it was before. Whereas if you do the restoration plan through the enforcement order and then the notice of intent, yeah, they have some control over if they want to do some modifications and not restore it back to what it was before.
I think that makes sense. And hopefully, Jesse, that makes sense to you.
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
So, Megan, what do we do with this article at this point?
So, yeah, so the commission could make a motion to issue an enforcement order, requiring the restoration plan and also an after the fact notice of intent filing. And then if you wanted to just give a date that you wanted the restoration plan by, that'd be helpful because it's part of what I have to fill out on the form. So if the 2-month period, the deadline of March 23rd works, that's great. But if you'd like to extend it into the spring to be more flexible, that's also fine. It's really up to you all.
Well, I agree. Extending it out makes sense. Just gives them time to make the plans the way they want it. So I would recommend, Jesse, that you pick a time in late May, early June to give you time to
Yeah.
go ahead, Megan.
The only drawback of waiting too long is that ideally the restoration work would take place in the spring or summer. We don't want to miss another good timing in the year where this work can actually be executed. So the hope is to kind of get the permitting aspect done in the winter, and then once spring and summer comes around, then the work can actually be done instead of delaying it.
So it sounds like the March date that you selected makes sense from that scheduling standpoint.
I'm happy to come back in March and give an update and that way, at that point, if the snow's melted, great. And if we've gotten the survey done, great. And if not, I'm sure everyone will remember that I was here and I love listening to these meetings. So I really am happy to come. I'm actually super interested in knotweed, so this has been an interesting meeting for me. I mean, not interested I like it, but it's definitely a pet project.
I was going to say we have knotweed for sale if you want some.
It's crazy how much it's taken over. It is just, yeah. Anyway, okay, so yeah, I'm happy to plan to come back in March with an update.
Yeah, and if we end up getting a ton of snow and we have snow into March, you can always modify or amend that requirement date. So it's not set in stone.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, who's that fellow?
This is Emmett. He's the
Hey,
backyard. He's the backyard user.
Well,
hello.
I'm a neighbor on South Street, so.
Oh, that's sorry.
Number 45. All right, so Megan,
okay.
What motion should we put on the table? Is it sort of, as you said, to issue the enforcement order requiring restoration as you define here? Do we need to mention an NOI?
I would think so.
Yeah.
So I move to move forward with an enforcement order. I don't have the address in front of me. I apologize.
509 South Street.
509 South Street, and to submit a restoration plan by our March 23rd meeting, and invite the homeowner to also submit a NOI to outline the work that will be done in the resource area, in and around the resource area.
I second.
Megan, is that suitable for a motion? Yes,
Yep.
she says. So I'm sorry, who did the second?
Me.
Thank you, Melissa. We'll take a roll call vote. We'll start with Navneet,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, the motion passes. Thank you both. All right. Let's get rid of those trees on Robbins Drive. This is a tree removal for 74 Robbins Drive. Joel Cohen, I believe, is the owner of the property. Removal of 2 dead, medium-sized white ash trees. Hope you don't want to make firewood out of it. I've tackled ash before. 2 damaged medium-sized red maple trees and 1 healthy medium-sized sweet birch within a 100-foot buffer zone to the bordering BVW rather. Sorry. So there is some history, Megan. Do you want to just talk a little bit about that? They started with 10 and now we're down to a smaller amount.
Yes. You know what? I think Joel is here. Maybe you're better
Yeah.
suited to describe your situation than I.
Sure. Hi, my name is Joel Cohen. I'm the property owner at 74 Robbins Drive. And we had a tree fall down in the backyard, just missed the house. So it got me thinking that I should probably take care of some of the other trees. We had a tree company come by. They said, yeah, these are the ones you should take care of. Originally, it was about 10. But then when I submitted the form, I realized that that wasn't going to happen without, the stamped plan by a certified wetlands expert and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then Megan and I talked to Noel as well. They told me that there's this expedited process if we just take care of 5. And then if we want to take care of the extra 5, I would go through the additional process of getting a certified wetland specialist to identify the wetlands and come up with a plan, that whole kind of thing. So the bottom line is we're taking care of, hopefully, the 5 that are closest to the house. These are trees that are kind of leaning towards the house. If they did fall, there's a good chance they would hit the house. And then in the summertime, when the snow melts, if we want to proceed with the additional trees, then I could go through with the extended plan. But for now, I would like to take care of these 5 trees in the winter while the ground's frozen, if possible.
So this would all be removed by crane,
Yes.
and would the results of the removal be taken off property or?
So I could, this is wetlands. It's in the back of the house. It's near the wetlands. It's a buffer zone, all that sort of stuff. I was intending to have the tree company remove the branches and leave some of the larger logs on site. I'm also willing to leave snags. So that was the plan.
Okay. Any comments from commissioners or Megan? You're
I
dialing
was
through
just
it.
gonna point out that, well, so the trees he's proposing to remove, 2 of them are dead, 2 are damaged, and 1 is healthy. He's providing mitigation with dogwood. I just noted that if he was gonna do dogwood, it had to be the native flowering dogwood. But the mitigation that he's providing in DVH, is 50% of all the trees he's removing, and he doesn't actually need to provide mitigation for the dead trees. So providing mitigation for more than what the tree policy requires. So I just wanted to point that out.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Sylvia has. Okay, I do. I have a question.
Go ahead.
That Okay, first of all, this is sort of my neighborhood. I'm over on the next street over, so I'm very familiar with it. I actually walked by today. Looks like you got a couple of big trees in the front of the house, but they may not be in the buffer zone. But they're close to wires, so the wires, the power lines are right along that edge of the road there. The trees in the photograph that Megan provided or you provided, it looks like the trees are right on the edge of wetlands and leaning toward the house, which is what happens when they clear land and put a house in it and it gets maintained with lawn. All the trees grow up and they grow toward the house that was installed there. Just want to make sure that when they take the trees down with crane or maybe even leave some, that they don't put any of the refuse or debris behind the trees, but because you probably be in a wetland pretty soon.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to tell them to take all the branches away and not leave any branches at all. And then we can make sure that any of the trunks, I mean, we can leave the snags, but anything that's between the size of the snag and the branches, we can make sure that's not going to end up on the wetlands.
Yeah, that would be good. There's a lot of water goes down through there in the spring.
Oh, yes.
I can make that a condition of the tree removal form.
Good idea, Megan. So, can I get a motion to approve the removal of 5 trees as described here?
So moved.
Brian? No seconded?
Second.
Oh, and a third. Good. We'll take a roll call vote. Sylvia?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Navneet?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
All right.
We have Julie, the town planner here. If you want to jump to that item in the Cranberry Bog updates now.
That would be great.
Okay. I'll just read the item. Well, so yes, Julie's going to present an update on the Cranberry Bog House feasibility study and procedural next steps. Thanks
Hi,
for
everybody.
joining.
Yeah, so I'm here, and then I also want to recognize that we have John Ballantyne and Maureen Cosgrove Deary with us from the Housing Trust. And I actually wanted to just start real quick and ask them if they have anything they want to say right up front before I kind of get into like a little bit of the detail of the timeline and some of the next steps that we're looking to achieve this year.
So I'll just say I'm co-chair of the Housing Trust, and we started this process over 2 years ago with the Conservation Commission when we decided to look at the feasibility of putting housing in the Bog House, and it's a long process. So we wrote a memo, and it was going to be affordable housing. We thought it was going to be town employees, but that's not possible. It's still going to be affordable housing. And so we've been in the first step of the feasibility study of is this possible? And so we've hired a bunch of consultants and going through that, and Julie will go through the timeline of what we've done. It's probably going to take another 3 years. You know, what we're doing this coming year is just checking the feasibility out of what's possible. And then there's a whole Article 97 process that we have to go through. So this is, takes time, and it takes a lot of outside consultants to make sure it works. So, and we're trying to preserve the Bog House and also have access to the bog and things like that. So there's a lot of number of site issues and things like that we will go through and talk about.
So George, can I ask a
Thank
question?
you, John. Sure.
So John, you're saying we can't, is there an issue in limiting it to, EMTs and whatever? You're saying we have to broadly make it low income housing?
Yes. And Julie will go through that, but that's sort of the state regulations that we cannot separate it out for, what we thought was going to be town employees or EMTs.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I can give a little more detail on that. Megan, am I able to screen share my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I had sent some of this information to Megan to distribute to you. So I'm thinking that maybe some of you have seen this already, but I'm just going to give a quick overview of where we are kind of since I think it was about 2 years ago that some members of Housing Trust came and talked to you to kind of get your at least general endorsement at that time for the feasibility study and exploring carving some land out of the bog with the bog house to create affordable housing. So just to give a quick overview of the project goals, and these are goals that kind of the select board has largely kind of signed on to, but one of the number one goals is preserving the historic structure and the cranberry bog kind of treasured landscape, while maintaining access to and the viability of the open space and trails. In doing that with the house, the goal is to create 4 units of housing. It would be ownership, so owner occupied housing that would be affordable to households earning between 30% and 100% of area median income. The important piece there is that if we target 30 to 100% of area median income, the town can use Community Preservation Act funds to help fund the project. And that was one of the goals of the select board, was to line this up so that we're able to use those funds for this. And then again, that is the last bullet here. So pursue the use of CPA funds to offset the tax burden on residents. So like John mentioned, I have been talking to town council and to a housing consultant just to kind of understand their feedback right from the get-go. I put together a pretty detailed kind of timeline, which I also sent to Megan to share with you. I'm not going to go through all the detail of that timeline tonight, but I'll give you the highlights. But just right up front, like a couple things to note as we talk about this. The Article 97 carve-out legislative process could take the full 2 years of the 2027-2028 legislative session. That's advice from town council. They haven't seen things typically move quicker than that. And then our housing consultant that has been hired recently by the Housing Trust strongly advises that we get the project permitted locally before we put the RFP out and have the RFP really focus on just the construction piece. And if we put out an RFP for a not-for-profit affordable housing developer, their sweet spot is construction, it's not permitting. So something we're going to try to figure out early on this year is what would be that permitting process. We call that, another term for that is the entitlement process. So currently our zoning bylaw doesn't allow for multifamily at the property. So we need to figure out the mechanism for getting the site permitted for multifamily housing. So the 2 top bullets there kind of lead me to this conclusion of timing, right? So the goal would be to try to permit the site for multifamily housing while we're awaiting the legislative action. If we don't, or we can't, that will push the time frame out even further, right? If we have to wait for the legislature to act and then do the whole permitting process, we're going to be talking about more years before we could break ground on this project. And then just getting back to what John was mentioning earlier. So a not-for-profit affordable housing developer would create units that would be subject to an affirmative fair housing marketing plan. Those units, there's a lot of restrictions and regulations that come with affordable housing. So those units would not be able to be sold to the town, and the town would not have any say in who lives in them. And I know that was something that had been discussed for a long time and before I came to work for the town. And I just wanted to clarify that right up front for people. So, and I can talk about that later if you have any questions.
Although there may be preference for town residents to buy the housing, so it's not totally, outside of the town's interest.
So that's a good point. There is a local preference process. Typically, towns, if you can justify and prove that there's a local
Really good
need,
test.
you can get local
Are you
preference
ready for
up to
bed?
70% of units. And there's 5 different categories of individuals who could apply for that affordable housing and be put into the lottery under that local preference bucket. And that would be, you know, town employees, residents with children in the school, non-residents with children in the school system. And I forget what the last 2 are, but it's not the town buys the units and then decides who lives there. It's people who are residents of the town or work for the town would have to apply and qualify and be part of the lottery. So it's not a certainty, right? It's just it's a possibility. So let me just keep going. So just to give you a little bit of background of what's happened in the last couple of years. So there was like some things that happened in 2025 that I wasn't really involved in because I was busy focusing on other things that you may have heard of. But now I'm back in the project and kind of trying to like figure out what happened, what needs to happen next. And so what was determined in 2024 and 2025 when we started the feasibility study and hired an architecture firm and an engineering firm was that 4 units of housing would be physically feasible in the building without compromising the historic building envelope and would also avoid the need for an elevator. The utilities, the preliminary analysis of the well is that the flow rate would be adequate for 4 units. Board of Health did just update their well regulations, so we're going to revisit that piece and kind of make sure that we're still thinking that, or if there's something we need to do, try to find that out early on. There were some test pits done to locate a septic system. There are a couple locations that could work. The engineering firm is looking really at the area. If you're on Curve Street and you're looking at the house, like behind the house, there's some area there. There's obviously wetland considerations, as you guys know better than I do. We can talk about that in more detail if you're interested as well. So what I'm currently working on right now is getting scopes of work and prices from the architecture and engineering consultants to extend the wetlands delineation and topographical survey to kind of west and southwest of the site to include a bigger area where we might want to relocate the parking for the trails and maybe also put the septic or have a secondary option of where the septic could go. And then a scope with the architect to prepare schematic design plans to kind of take the housing concept to the next level, and a scope with the engineering firm to kind of determine the site plan, right? Figure out, like, once we know where the wetlands are located, once we think we know where we want the utilities to go, like how would we relocate the parking and where, and kind of other site features so that we can figure out the all-in land area that would be required to be carved out of Article 97. So those are kind of early this year actions. We're trying to sort that out in 2026. So let me just keep going.
So Julie, you have the site plan sort of showing what, so that we can talk that about.
Yeah, so we have a preliminary kind of concept plan showing where the septic might go. There's some work that needs to be done on that. And once I finalize the scopes with these consultants, Housing Trust has authorized some funding to engage them. There may be a requirement for additional funding, and I think there will likely be a request at town meeting for additional CPA funds to cover some of the work. But the goal in 2026 would be to figure out, like, what is the area that would be carved out from the bog property. And then if we do need to provide replacement land, like Article 97 typically requires replacement land or funds, and replacement land needs to be of equal ecological and monetary value, where that replacement land would be. And there's some costs associated with the surveys and appraisals related to that, as well as legal costs. So 2026 is kind of figuring out what's the what, what's the replacement, so that in early 2027 we could file some legislation for the next legislative session. And then, like I mentioned earlier, another thing we're trying to pin down early this year is what would be the entitlement process for multifamily on the property. Would we try to do a friendly 40B, or would we try to do some local zoning that would enable multifamily, and then have like a site plan review process with the planning board, and obviously the CONSCOM process, the HISCOM like all the different boards and committees, right? So that's something I'm working on with the housing consultants, figuring out the best mechanism for that. Town meeting votes will be involved, many stages of this process. So like I mentioned, there may be a request to annual town meeting for CPA funding. And then fall town meeting, the like official transfer of whatever the carve out is from conservation to the select board, a vote on the replacement land, maybe additional CPA funding. And then if we are going to do this through local zoning, there would be a local zoning bylaw on the town meeting warrant. So there's a lot to be done this year. And part of the reason I'm here tonight is because I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this process, but while I'm working out the scopes with the engineer and architect, I want to make sure I don't miss anything, and that I'm aligning their scopes with the priorities of the stakeholder boards and committees. So I would welcome any feedback you have about this process or considerations you want me to make sure to include. And let me just go to the next slide. So as I kind of started to mention, 2027 actions, early 2027, file the legislation. And then if we are able to start the local permitting process with the boards and committees that are involved in this project. I think if this all stays on track, and I reserve the right to modify this presentation as we learn more, but if this stays on track, then we would try to probably issue the RFP for construction at some point in 2027. And potentially come to fall town meeting in 2027 to finalize the property transfer to whoever the successful not-for-profit affordable housing developer is. So I think let me just make sure I don't have any
You have
other...
a site plan there to show that? No.
Yeah, so I was having trouble actually accessing the town server, but I can send the concept septic plan around to everybody after this.
So maybe we can just talk about it, because I think it's an important thing here is that preserving the bog house as is and the units there, and parking and access to the bog is really important. So probably what's going to happen is, okay, yes, great. So here's the sand pit. So here's the sand pit down here to the left. As we look at it, probably what's going to happen is the septic is going to be, sand pit is over the septic is going to be near the house, and sort of, and then what we'll do is, it looks like parking will be down by the sand pit, so we can have parking for the people who use the bog, and you have a separate area where the house and land is separate, and it's private and outside, and it's for the units, the people living in the units, and then the public access comes through there. And so an important thing is to keep access to the bog and parking, as those of you who know the bog pretty well. People use it a lot, and it can get pretty crowded, and we want to make sure that we have separation, and you would probably have separation maybe with a split rail fence or something like that. And this is getting into a lot of detail, but nonetheless, so that the house looks like it's still very much part of the bog, but it's separate, and then the parking for the public is separate. And so that's the idea of how that is. And also there is access for, emergencies if something happens, as there have happened, so that the fire can come out there on the current road. So that's the basic. So the site plan is actually pretty important, which obviously when we get the details, we go through that very carefully with you, and where the wetlands are and the septic. So that's, at least the consideration.
So can I ask, those yellow and a little bit orange lines, those are That an easement or that's not Curve Street, right?
That's Curve
This is
Street, no?
Curve Street, yeah.
Curve Street.
So I'm just this is just the town's like online mapping
Okay.
system
So Curve
in
Street
lieu
actually
of
goes
that
that
site
close to the
plan.
property.
Yes.
Thank
So GIS is representational, right? It's not survey level. So, you know, the survey will show more clearly the relationship between Curve Street and the property more accurately.
I just didn't know it was that close to the side of the.
Oh yeah, it's really close. It's quite close.
Yeah, it's about 10 feet.
Yeah.
10, 15 feet. Yeah, 10 feet to the house or 5 feet. Yeah.
I like the strategy of the sand pit turning into the public parking area. That's really a good idea.
And I'm sorry, Julie, do we need to carve out 2.0 acres to meet zoning requirements, or is there an exception here?
So, that's a great question. You know, I think the goal would be to carve out as little land as possible. The state, in preliminary conversations, they've said that we need to carve out at least the house, the parking, and the utilities to support the multifamily housing. So that's at like the minimum, right? And what that looks like is what we're trying to figure out, like with the site plan. So, I mean, I think the goal would be to carve out the minimum. One thing that will drive like how many units and bedrooms we can get in the house is the land area. So, you know, you're probably familiar with this because you live in town and have septic systems, but you know, typically you can get 4 bedrooms per acre. So if we wanted to do 4 units and 8 bedrooms, like that math works out to be 2 acres.
Right.
So some of those details are kind of yet to be worked out. Like once we kind of see the architectural plan and figure out what the unit mix is going to be and what the bedroom count's going to be. And then I was talking to Linda in the Board of Health, and there are some alternative septic systems that could achieve more bedrooms on the site and maybe actually have a smaller leach field footprint. So could potentially work better if the wetlands are more extensive than they appear, at least, you know, to the untrained eye. So those are details we would try to work out in the next
Yeah,
hopefully
and
6
Julie
months,
was
but
saying if you
yeah.
do a multi-family zoning sort of regulation the town meeting votes on, or do you do a friendly 40B, which would be sort of the 2 acres. And so there are a little bit different regulatory sort of aspects to that. And those are the 2 issues that you're looking at, but probably no more than 2 acres you know,
Yeah. I think that would be the goal, would be to keep it. And because if we do have to provide replacement land as well, like we need to be mindful of like how much we'd have to give back, and you know, it needs to be similar ecological values. So all those things are conversations with the state. They'll need to come out to the site and kind of give us their read on what they would accept. So, you know, none of this is going to happen quickly. I don't want you all to leave tonight thinking we're breaking ground next year. Because there's a lot of work, a lot of steps and a lot of work to be done and a lot of stakeholder input that we need to get. And it is, you know, a treasured landscape. So it's not going to be, I'm sure, like politically easy thing to do. So we want to try to get it right.
And I think one of the key parts is finding the not-for-profit developer, presuming that we figure out it's feasible, the not-for-profit developer that can make this happen and help raise money so we don't have to use, you know, too much of town money. We're obviously using a good deal of town money to check its feasibility out, and you're donating the land and the houses. So that's the objective.
So just one more question, sort of thinking out of the box. Is it possible, and maybe it's not at all, but is it possible to put a septic system on the other side of Curve Street on other town property, just to get it further away from the wetlands? And I know that, you know, certainly residentially you can't leap over a road, but can the town leap over a road because they own it? And that it looks like it's 9115 something. Is it possible at all to put the septic system on the other side of the road?
But isn't there a resource area on the other side too?
Yes.
Yeah, we are
Yeah.
actually going to have the wetlands over here delineated as well, so that we understand like the kind of broader picture. I did have some conversations last year with Sylvia about locating the septic over here. I don't think it's, I mean, I think for me to answer that question, I'd actually ask you guys a bunch of questions. I don't think it's impossible, but one thing I'm actually not sure of is this land on this side of Curve Street not Article 97?
Yes, it is a 97.
Yes.
It is also, right? So, okay, so I do think it is possible. There's examples in town currently where there's a septic supporting a structure and they're on opposite sides of the street from each other. So I don't think it's impossible. I would need to do a little more research, but Sylvia maybe could chime in on that. I don't know.
A couple of things I have. First, if I would love to see a landscape plan because I think it's such a treasured landscape. It's also historic, that whatever is done should minimize the disruption to the view shed that we have out there. I think it's great to be working on something like this. I think putting the parking down in the sand pit is inspired. My biggest concern right now is the consequences of removing land from Article 97. It has never been done here in Carlisle. It has been done in other towns, sometimes for, we need more parking at the school kind of thing. This seems to be for some public good. But I would love to know, for example, if land is pulled out of Article 97, and even if it is replaced, are there downstream consequences for if the town should want to file for a land grant for acquisition of conservation land in the future? Would the fact that we have taken land out give the town kind of a black mark on that? And hopefully the answer is no. But I think it would be good to try to find out if there's any negative consequences in doing that, even if it is replaced. Fortunately, the town did not use state and federal money when it bought the land, as Chelmsford did. The town did not. It was a little controversial, but we only used town money for this.
Meaning the bog purchase.
The bog purchase, correct. Yeah. So taking some of the land away from conservation when state and federal money might have been used to acquire it might have more legal entanglements than we would have.
So Julie, and we want to just sort of recap the preliminary conversation we had over a year ago with the state on this, on the Article 97 and it being affordable housing and why they're generally supportive of this effort.
Yeah, but I've learned the hard way. You can't go on quotes.
No, I know. Yeah, I know.
But we did have a meeting with them. Yeah, was it last January or was it 2 Januaries ago? I can't remember. But they did express support for this. Just housing aligns with the goals of the administration, and I think in the document that was circulated, I put some quotes from EEA staff that, they weren't necessarily thinking that there was a ton of actual ecological value to the land surrounding the house. That's obviously, I'm just the messenger. That's not necessarily my opinion. They expressed a lot of support for the concept, and I think would be happy if we kept what we carve out to the bare minimum necessary to make this project work.
Good. I have one other little question. This is a 125-year-old wooden house.
Mm-hmm.
It was stabilized around 2011 and 12. Have you talked to the fire department about how they feel about 4 units, living units going into such an old house, and whether or not it might need a cistern?
So I have actually, and the feedback I've gotten from the fire chief is that because of the large natural water source right next to the building, uh, he, he does not feel that a cistern would be necessary.
Excellent.
And he has been chiming in on my conversations with the architecture firm about what might be required for fire code for the building. So I certainly circle back with everybody just to make sure that we're not missing something. But so far, that's the information I have so far.
Oh,
And
good.
we've also met with the building inspector.
Yeah.
The new one?
The building inspector, yes.
The new one?
The interim building inspector right now has not been looped in on this project specifically, but
Yep.
yeah, we have talked to the prior building inspector about this. Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I get that right. The fire department felt that the water around the bog, that would be sufficient in case of a fire.
That is the feedback that I got. I think I asked a couple times over the last couple of years, but certainly like we do a lot of land use team meetings every month actually, and we have all the departments represented that review plans and would have a say on development in town. And I was planning on actually giving a presentation, an update on this yesterday at the meeting, but we ran out of time. So I will be updating everybody next month. And the fire chief is always at those meetings, as well as the building inspector usually. And we have someone from conservation. We have the assessor. We have a lot of people in the room to provide. The goal of those meetings really is to get coordinated feedback and to all hear what everyone else is saying so that we can proceed as smartly as possible.
Yeah,
And there'll probably be a sprinkler system there too. So
okay, yeah, I'm by no means a fire expert, but just knowing the bog, that's not always a reliable water level there. It's just so I find that interesting that's that. Anyways, that's a detail for later, obviously, but surprising.
It's a little better right now with all the beaver dams downstream.
Yeah, yes. The beavers have helped, yes.
I will certainly confirm that, Navneet, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge thing that we wouldn't want to miss and find out later we needed to figure out at the last minute.
So Julie, are you going to get a map with the wetlands delineated on it? So I'm curious
Yeah,
where.
we have one. I don't know why I cannot connect to the town server right now, but and I'll circulate it for sure for you guys. But yeah, we had the wetlands in this area delineated last year, I think. I'm so fuzzy on the last 2 years. And then we're having that delineation extended over here, and then also down here.
You need to do the flood, the 100-year flood zone as well, and the riverfront area.
Yep, those are all ready. Yep,
it's all part of the contract.
Yeah.
And Sylvia, to your comment about the site design and the landscaping design, that's absolutely would be part of what we would go through, is what it would look like, so that it very much integrates into how it's part of the bog.
Yeah, there's actually a site issue that really doesn't have anything to do with the bog, but as you're coming along Curve Street, just as you're getting to the bog house, you're on a corner, and people pulling in and out of there. It's hard to see who's coming from the other direction, and if you want to go in and park there, and people are coming from the other direction, it's a little tricky. So maybe transferring the parking to the sand pit will help with that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good. You've mentioned that before, Sylvia, and that's an important thing that we'll need to figure out, so that we're not making the area less safe. but I would say also, like, even though we would be transferring the parking for the trails to the sand pit, the parking for the house will still be there.
Correct.
Will still be
Yeah.
here. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll make a note of that.
And I think the idea is that maybe you have more parking in the sand pits, because as you know, parking at certain times on the bog can be a real mess.
Agreed.
Right.
Mm.
Correct.
And it'll be less busy. I mean, in terms of people pulling in, pulling out, pulling in, pulling out. Yeah, less active, if you will.
Right.
Well, Julie, John, thank you very much for the presentation. Any other questions from commissioners?
I would encourage them to also touch base with the Trails Committee if anything of that they're planning to do interacts with the trail system.
That's great. That's a great point, Sylvia. It
Mhm.
certainly will. So thank you.
I'm
Right.
piling it on.
Anyone in the public like to comment? All right, I think having that, I think we've, we appreciate what you presented. We at least initially support what we're trying to do. And I understand it's going to be difficult over multiple years, but where there's a will, there's a way, right?
Nothing worthwhile comes easy, as I like to say. So thank you very much for your time, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or thoughts, or send them through Megan. And I will come back at whenever you guys want an update. Just let Megan know. She can let me know. But I'll try to come back periodically as like more is known, or if there's going to be a request to town meeting that I'd like to make sure, you're supportive of, or at least I am considering your thoughts. So,
And we're certainly
Thank you.
hopeful that we can have the design and the septic by the spring. And that if the people respond quickly. So that's what we're trying to do. So when we go to town meeting, we say, here's the feasibility and here's how it's working and here's where the next steps go.
right.
All I can say
And
is good luck.
Right.
I also should say, I want to just like give Megan a shout out because she's been really helpful to figuring out kind of like the steps that are needed, at least from a conservation standpoint, to like keep this moving in the right direction. And I never knew about the winter delineation policy until recently. So that's helpful information. So we're working closely on this, and we will continue to do so. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Julie.
All right, Megan, the next thing on the list here was the Sumco GPR findings. Oh, sorry, that's the 29th. Never mind, I'm out of date. Can we move to item 4, appointment of Department of DPW Building Renovation Committee representative?
Sure. This was on our last meeting, and then I was asked to get more information on the time commitment to join this committee. I talked to Gretchen and Ryan, and they both kind of said the same thing, which is that the actual time of the meetings, whether it be daytime or evenings, is going to be set by the committee members. So it's not known right now if it's going to be daytime or nighttime because that's something the committee members will decide on. But Ryan said that the committee would meet once a month or so. So that was kind of the best information I could find on the time commitment for that.
All right. So I guess the first thing is there a volunteer in the Conservation Commission that would like to spend 2 hours once a month, daytime or night?
I'll volunteer. Time I anteed up on something. Unless someone else wants to do it, in which case I'm happy to see the duty. I'm not hearing another.
I don't see anybody raising their hand here. So,
all right. I know it needs to get done. So.
Melissa, thank you very much for volunteering.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion, Megan, or can we just go with that?
I think you should make a motion.
Can I get a motion to appoint Melissa Webster to be the Conservation Commission representative with the DPW Building
moved.
Renovation Committee.
So moved.
Navneet, and
I'll second that.
thank you, Ryan. We'll take a roll call vote. Navneet,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Melissa.
Do I
I
vote
don't
on
know,
this?
Wow.
Aye, if I do.
You already did by volunteering, so I think
Yes.
you can go ahead.
All right. Aye.
Sylvia. Sylvia
Muted.
is muted. I can't read your lips.
Hi. Sorry.
I knew, Sylvia, I knew this is the job you wanted. I'm really sorry.
And the chair votes aye, the motion
Nick,
passes.
Nick,
Thank
Nick,
you.
Nick. Don't forget Nick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss Nick? Nick, where are you?
No, you called me.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay.
So the motion passes. Thank you very much. Item number 5, Land Steward Committee updates.
That would be me.
Well,
So we've continued to have our meetings with the Land Steward Subcommittee with in regard to the Woodward property. We have 2 more coming up. We tried and kind of failed in early January to have one with the abutters. And I tried something unique we hadn't done before, which is to send out notices to the abutters. But at the time I asked to send them out, there was a question of whether I would have residency in Carlisle. So that got delayed.
mhm.
Butters were not happy because they got the notice. I'm making it up, but on a Thursday or Friday for a meeting on Monday. So we've reissued the notices, and they also didn't like that they didn't get all the documents. So Noel has helped, and we've got the notices went out and a link to where to go to the town website to look at the documents that are associated. That meeting will be on February 2nd. And then on February 9th, we'll have a separate meeting with the town boards and CCF to talk about more issues, because there are certainly open issues. And the other issue in that regard is that the select board asked about a change of our charter, which was very vague because I had no notice of it, but George, you got a notice of it.
Yep.
Could we meet on the 27th as the 3 town boards with our full quorums to discuss it? LSC cannot meet on that date with the full time. We just don't have a quorum for that date.
Mhm.
And we're asking for the input. What I heard back from the select board is, we just want to know, right now you have a variable amount of members, and we don't like that. It's whatever it is, 9 to 12 members, and they'd like it to be fixed. But there was a whole other faction of people who wanted us to make sure that we dedicated ourselves for agriculture only for the purposes of food production, which is not what's consistent with what we've decided, and Conscom decided before us, of the Woodward property. We're doing seed saving, not food. So we have a bunch of issues to be discussed and developed with the LSC before we can go to any triumvirate meeting of the 3 of us. So that's where we're at right now.
So you're saying next Tuesday's meeting's not happening, Brian, because you don't have a quorum?
Yeah, I already told them that, whatever it was, last week, the week before. When we met last, we couldn't come up with a quorum on that date, so we can't do that.
What are you saying? Oh,
But does it need to be a quorum? I thought this was a discussion. I'm
Well,
confused.
They asked for a quorum, which I think would be
Oh,
efficient in that we would perhaps be able to vote that night, but there are very few people that are available on the 27th, And, we as LSC, as COMSCOM probably does, we need time to be able to discuss these options. One of them came from the select board, which is to change the number of members, which we can do. The other one sort of slept in when they thought I wasn't going to be the chair, which is to add the agricultural position, which we discussed last week, but we're really not sure about, and we didn't know where it came from. It did not come from the select board. It came from a select board member in AgCom. So we need time to talk about that. We'll talk about that on the meeting on the 10th.
Sorry to go back to this point. So Megan, my understanding in the email was very different than maybe some conversations that are happening and I'm not aware of, but my understanding was this was going to be a larger conversation about sort of the structure of land steward committee, and it wasn't going to be a meeting that is like held where we're making motions and voting. It was going to be more of a discussion. So a quorum wasn't necessary, but I might have misunderstood the nature or agenda of this meeting.
So
yeah, my understanding was similar in that the select board has this item on their agenda because they have a select board meeting that night, and then we're gonna go in at the 8 o'clock time slot, and of course, full member attendance is encouraged, which means if a quorum shows up, we have to post for it, which we already did, so that you can all discuss freely. But that if anyone's voting, it would be the select board, not CONCOM or LSC. But that, yeah, there would be a discussion from what I saw in the email about their agenda says discussion of communication processes and various recommendations, questions and concerns, and also about the LSC charter. So my understanding was that it was more of a discussion just to get everyone, all the stakeholders in the same room to discuss freely, and that, yeah, full member attendance is encouraged.
And if any public wanted to, that's why you posted it, that if any public wanted to express their concerns, that they had the opportunity in an open meeting to do so.
Well, and also is posted in case a quorum shows up.
Exactly,
right? Because
exactly.
we'd be
Yeah,
in
yeah,
violation.
that too.
Yeah, but it's not required that we have a quorum. That was my understanding too. Yeah, so I would guess
the request was that we
the
had a
select
quorum.
board's, sorry, since it's the select board's meeting, my understanding, it'll go forward, right?
That's my understanding, but I can certainly double check with the select board following this meeting to make sure that I understand that even if LSC can't have a quorum, that they still want CONCOM there to discuss. So I can double check on that.
Yeah, Brian, my understanding, this is their meeting, this is their turf. It's not about us having enough people to discuss. It's this discussion is going to happen. So as many members from the stakeholders should be present to participate in that discussion. It doesn't have to be a quorum.
Well, the email I got from them was asking for a quorum. In our last meeting, we actually discussed, could we form a quorum and have a discussion at, say, 7 o'clock? Our meeting's at 8. Could we have a discussion at 7 o'clock and discuss the issues? And I couldn't find a quorum. So I'm asking them.
That's so different from the email we saw.
I don't know, but I'm just telling you that we, in our last meeting, we talked about it, and we were unclear about whether, I did hear back from the select board that their issue is only the number of members, but there was some side chatter about whether we would support only agriculture for for the production of food, which denies the permit for the Woodward property. And we just weren't ready to discuss that. So I wrote back to Scott last week and I said, we're not ready. We want to have a meeting of our own to discuss it, and we'll talk about it at a future meeting. So that's where I left it. I'm not sure what's going to happen next week, but LSC is not prepared. And I heard nothing from Conscom. They talked about changes to our charter from either the select board or Conscom. And as far as I know, I haven't had any emails from Conscom suggesting that we change our charter. So we just need more time. That's all.
I just think that the select board is going to have this discussion regardless. That's what I'm trying to say, is that it's on their agenda. It's
That's
their meeting.
prerogative. We're just not,
Yeah,
as
that's fine.
a group, we're not ready to have that discussion. And I'm not sure what the urgency is.
So I'll follow up with the select board and see that even if LSC can't make it to the meeting, if they still want the Conservation Commission to attend. And I'll let you all know. I'll do that
Okay.
tomorrow so you have time to prepare and schedule.
And
Thanks,
I'll
Mike.
certainly attend as Conscom, but not as the LSC chair, because LSC just needs time to talk about it.
I think that's a good way to approach it, Megan, is let's see what they're trying to do. I'm willing to attend from a Conscom standpoint.
Yeah. I
Just
blocked
to
my
discuss it.
schedule. I blocked my schedule, so
Yeah, I can attend too. I just need to know I just want to make sure we're covered for open meeting.
Yep. Yeah, we'll make sure we get it posted to the clerk's office.
Okay. Well, Brian, thank you very much for the updates, and thanks to the comments from various members of the Conservation Commission. Is there anything else that we need to discuss under this item right here? So you mentioned February
Yeah,
2nd meeting.
I have discussion of the Woodward agricultural license and land management plan here for discussion because it was mentioned at the last meeting and noted that it was going to take a while to review because the plan is kind of long to read through. So I put that on the agenda if the commission wants to discuss anything about those materials tonight. And I'm happy to share my screen if anyone wants me to on any of those materials.
Well, I must admit, I'm not prepared to discuss it. I have not spent enough time looking at it. Are there questions from commissioners that they'd like to put on the table right now?
I've looked at it and I have issues, but I think it's important for us all to have read it before we have a conversation.
I agree. I think you really need to go down through it more than once and also take a look at the agricultural license agreement to the Grow Native as well that was issued to them, and just sort of have the two together. And I guess also the CR. So there's a lot of things going on there.
So did you find, oh, sorry. I was just gonna ask if you found the documents I put in the packet sufficient. I think there was 3 documents. The Woodward agricultural license, the supporting narrative was the second, and then the land management plan by Grow Native. Those are the 3 documents I included. For the people that reviewed them, does that seem sufficient to cover what should be reviewed, or is there anything else you want me to add in there?
I think they are, but they raise a more general question, which we should talk about, which is how we handle invasives in town. Because one method, for example, this company Parterre that has done invasive removals for us before, they cut the stems of things, say glossy buckthorn or whatever. Sorry, I'm losing the word. But they cut the stems and then they paint the stems with herbicides.
Herbicide, yeah.
And the question is, are we where, for example, the Woodward property? I mean, it could be anywhere, but the Woodward property, we have it as quote unquote organic, and does the painting of the stems to kill the invasives, negate the
Organic,
throughout
yeah.
the field.
Mhm.
Yep.
And we have the same thing with Foss Farm. There's a lot of glossy buckthorn, and we have a plan to remove it, but they can't rip it all up. They have to cut it off, and then they take a paintbrush and they paint the stems, and then usually cover it in a plastic that kills the roots. But it's not organic. And we had the same thing with the bog, with the Phragmites. We used herbicides. So I think at some point the CONSCOM is going to decide whether the use of herbicides judiciously for the removal of invasives is considered okay. I mean, it's done by a licensed applicator. It's not you or me going out there. But is that okay? And can we continue to do that? So that's certainly an issue, not just for Woodward, but for other properties as well.
Hmm.
And also for Woodward, I'm perplexed a little bit given the proposal, on the management plan to do 5 little 1,000-square-foot areas. Why we're not issuing a land use permit rather than the license that was issued for 6 acres, where they're not going to do anything with, 92% or 98% of the land. That seemed a little strange to me. And what we did this year, which I question as a good strategy from a conservation perspective, we basically let everything sit for a year, and we grew this bumper crop of non-native foxtail grass, just a huge seed burden that could, reseed the land for the next 20 years. I mean, I don't see that is doing the land a good benefit. And, I'd heard the story that, the sheep had grazed on the milkweed, but, sheep actually die if they eat milkweed. I don't think it was sheep. I think it was probably deer. Maybe the sheep trampled something, and maybe they got in the wrong place, but I think we're blaming the wrong species for any potential nibbling on the milkweed, which is a very hardy plant and grows back readily. So I'm a little bit, I'm not sure why we're sort of ceding the rights to this, to 6 whole acres for what is basically an experiment on, attempting to renativize, if you will, very small plots.
Yeah, agreed.
I did the math. It was 1.9% of the property.
Oh, that's even worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is this approach something that other towns and counties and so on have used in the past and still be able to raise a flag and say, yes, it's organic? I have no idea.
You mean, well, with herbicides, you mean? I don't know.
Right.
With selective, if you could compartmentalize the area for the little test plots and somehow separate those from the rest of the acreage, that would be wonderful, right? Because then we could have it both ways. I don't know if that's possible to kind of draw lines, if you will, to demarcate sub-segment or, subdivide our 6-acre plot, somehow. And maybe there's a way to do that and sort of siphon off an area that can be used for land use permit for renativizing, and they can spend their intensive effort there. I think the concept of scattering these 5 little plots, more broadly in the hopes that, natives will just magically self-seed and compete with foxtail, I think that's like more than a pipe dream. I just think that's nonsense. It hasn't happened yet. Why would it suddenly happen? Because there's something.
So we issued a 5-year license to grow native for the property last year. And it was based on CONSCOM. It wasn't something that LSC invented.
Right.
We came up with that in advance.
But I don't know. I wasn't on CONSCOM. I was on CONSCOM last year, and my recollection is Judy came before us in January and said, LSC wants to do this. and issue this license. And we heard one side of the story and we didn't hear anything from anybody else. And it sounded nice and pleasant, but it wasn't coming from Conscom.
So I would urge you, Melissa, to join the meeting on February 9th, which is when we're going to talk to different town boards, like stakeholders, about
I'll
the
do that.
issues with the license, and that's really the time to talk about this and bring up any issues you may have.
I've been attending, as you've noticed, some of the other Woodward meetings. So yes.
Hopefully not the one with the pornography.
What? Oh, I missed
we were bombed. We were
I missed
bombed with
I missed that.
pornography.
I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't
Yeah.
miss it. It was awful. So
Oh, it's so real sad. I'm
never,
sorry.
never make an open. Usually there's a waiting room, and someone waited in our waiting room and they weren't attended to. So last time I made it open, there was no waiting room, and apparently this has happened before. It happened to the Board of Health. It's just awful. You can't imagine. Like having a 3-foot tall penis in the middle of your meeting is just like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So change of subject.
Please.
I'd like to hear what Jonathan has to say, but that is my understanding of how things unfolded as well, Melissa. Just to, you're not out on a limb here. That was my understanding, was that Judy came to us, and the contours of it seemed to have been different a little bit as to how it was executed, and my understanding wasn't how it actually played out. But
let's see what Jonathan has to say.
Before Jonathan speaks, just one comment. I do think there's value in Conscom remembering that we're sort of the deed holder for these lands, and when it comes to issuing a license, I really do think we need to be in the loop on that. That's my 2 cents.
Well, we kind of formed the LSC to take over the management and not have to come to Conscom.
Yeah, but I don't think the spirit of it was that, George. My I'm going to go out on a limb here. That wasn't what my understanding. Like a 5-year license to something completely different to what we've always done. I think that, in my opinion, that deserved a little bit of a conversation, just to check the boxes that all people are aware and up to speed and in agreement of how things are going to be done differently. And I'm not opposed to different. I'm pleased. I don't want to be labeled as such.
Understood.
I don't want to hear it in the mosquito that Commissioner Hundal is against change. No, I think if there's better options, better things for the use of our land, and then I'm all for it. But that wasn't how I felt this played out.
Yeah, agreed.
So I don't mean to defend too much, and we can talk about this in another meeting, but from my standpoint, and I wasn't chair of LSC until June, but we inherited these decisions from Conscom. For example, people saying, why is corn 1 year and hay is, 5 years? We LSC didn't make that up. That was a decision made by Conscom.
No. When?
I
don't ever remember that.
I don't think you weren't around, but no offense. But
Sylvia has never
something
met
that was
her.
done by Conscom that LSC inherited.
It has never been more than 3 years.
The question was, why is it 1 year for corn?
For like 30 years.
Sorry. The question was, why was it 1 year for corn? And that was a decision made by Conscom.
When?
You'd have to go in the meeting minutes. I don't know.
Well, it's probably like the last 20 years.
But LSC did not independently say 1 year for corn. That was, I'm sorry, I'm going to make up a date of
That
said that in October of whenever it was, a year ago, maybe a year,
That was the spirit of that was different, because there was a lot of conversation about the person. Is my recollection, so it has to be like, I reserve the right to be wrong. But my recollection with the spirit of that was different, because there were some issues with how the farmer at the time was doing things, and there was some concern, and we said, okay, we'll issue a 1-year license. Sylvia, correct me if I'm wrong. And so there was, I think there was a mud trampling. It was like lots of different things. And that was why that was issued, but that wasn't the typical norm. And
Right.
we were looking to maybe invite other farmers, and that's why we had the application from that young man from Bedford, I think. And that's how that 1 year, that's how what I remember how it came about. It wasn't something that the Conservation Commission was doing routinely.
But
Yeah,
my point is, it wasn't something that LSC made up, as you're saying.
No, we're talking about the 5-year thing. I think
Conscom-
we're apples and oranges.
Conscom decided the 1 year for corn. That was not something that LSC on their own developed. That's my only point.
But as I recall it, the 5-year plan was something that Judy had promulgated because they didn't want to have someone invest in doing the native operation for a short period of time. And then the question was, well, the farmers that are doing corn or hay or whatever, they invest their money in the property, and 1 year was probably too short. We could make it a better incentive, which is, I thought we were doing 3 years, but
Yeah, it's always been 3 years. And it may have been because of an issue that happened 1 year that was an extraordinarily wet year, where the farmer got stuck in the field, that there was a change made for 1 year. But I know during my time as administrator, I occasionally asked the Conservation Commission if they would be interested in having a longer license agreement, say from 3 to 5, and they were always said no, always.
So my issue isn't the 3 to 5, it was the 1 year. And people have asked, why is corn 1 year? And I'm saying that was not an LSC decision. That was a decision made by Conscom.
For 1 year only.
Yeah,
For one
I think,
instance only.
yeah, exactly. That wasn't the historical record. Anyways, Jonathan.
Speak, Jonathan.
I was actually going to comment on the previous topic of conversation. And so just Jonathan DeCock, 130 Oak Knoll Road. I'm going to comment as the garden manager that I just wanted to point out that the community gardens are 750 square foot plots. We have better soil, I believe, because we're in river silt. We have access to water, and we don't have near as many problems with invasives, largely because we plow. And so when you're talking about using 1,000 square foot plots, the community gardens is a great place for somebody to come in and do that kind of stuff. And it's perfectly legal for people from outside of the town of Carlisle to apply for plots because we used state and federal money to buy Foss Farm. And so it's required that we accept all applicants.
Oh, interesting.
So Grow Native could be doing garden plots at Foss instead, you mean?
Perfectly,
a good idea. Plus, they wouldn't have to compete with all the foxtail grass.
And Jonathan's talking about doing no-till, which is important for, for example, if somebody wanted to grow a plot of whatever.
Asparagus,
or
native plants that need to
or milkweed that
whatever. It's not ready out this year. When you'll talk about the thing later, but it is something that I'd like to do, and I'm happy to partner with people to make it happen.
So Jonathan's saying that biennials, for example, could be grown on a plot in Foss, and they would not be destroyed annually.
Eventually, I'd like to get there. Yeah.
That's a great place to relocate Grow Native. That's a great idea. And there's water there. By the way, that's a big problem for the Grow Native activity at Woodward. I don't know how they're going to get water in there because there's no wells. And in a dry year, if they're trying to cultivate, seedlings and young plants, I don't see how what are they going to do? A backpack with a, bunch of gallons on, and a little hose? I don't see how they're going to do it.
I thought
they have the right to have a well. The CR allows a punch well, but I don't think they're going to make one. And the reason they've had so little success the last year is it was a drought year, and even the natives that they thought would grow. I mean, I know you mentioned the foxtail grew, which is a non-native, but the natives they hoped would grow were not able to because there was no water. So I don't know if this year's going to be different, if the next 5 years are going to be different. I don't know.
I don't know. We've had a bunch of drought years over the last 5. Yeah.
Well, we're still in a drought, is my
Right.
understanding.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So growing at Foss for them might give them way, way more success. And there's already perennials growing in the Foss gardens anyway. There's like, Sylvia, don't you have milkweed in your patch?
I do. It is really tough plant. In fact, like all the gardens, it's tilled down 6 inches and it still comes up.
Yeah, it's pretty hardy.
Melissa, I just want to remind you, we gave a license to grow native for 5 years. So, you know, some idea of just changing it all right now is really not an option. Just like we can't say to Clark Farm that you can't use some field that we've, or Duffy, some field that we've already allocated to them. It's not a quick change.
Yeah, we can't renege. Agreed.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where we stand on that. Aren't there some issues about the license?
Issues are that the third lot of the Woodward property is not under a CR, a conservation restriction, but it's been licensed 4 other times to other parties, even though it doesn't have it. It's town property, just like we could license, not that we're going to, but like we could license the bog to XYZ. It doesn't require a conservation restriction. So somebody had it, then Judy had it, and then Clark Farm had it, and now Grow Native has it. It's not an issue that it doesn't have a conservation restriction.
Yeah, but I have a feeling after listening to the Woodward conversations in the past few weeks that Heather would be, probably very amenable to working with us in a constructive way for a better outcome. And it might just be in her self-interest to have water on site. So she has a prayer at getting these little plants to grow.
So it'd be great if you could,
she would be better off there.
It'd be great if you could bring up those issues on February 9th when we're going to have a meeting with stakeholders of town boards and CCF to talk about issues. That's the time to talk about that.
Okay, good idea.
So what time is that, Brian? Is that 7 or 8 or 8 o'clock? 7?
For clarification, does LSC subcommittee also have a meeting on February 2nd, or did I get that wrong?
You have that correct. So that's the Woodward subcommittee meeting is February 2nd and February 9th. The LSC meeting is February 10th.
Got it.
The meeting on the 2nd, which actually we did something, well, we did it last time too, but we've actually sent out a notice, sort of like Conscom would do for a certified notice to abutters. We sent out a notice to all the abutters of the Woodward property, informing them of the meeting on the 2nd. And then on the 9th, we'll have another meeting with the stakeholders of town boards, which I include CCF, although they're not legally a town board. And we'll have a discussion then. So we're just trying to take input from everybody we can.
Hey, Brian, can I?
So
I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, do you need a Concom representative at the February 9th meeting? Is that something that the commission should discuss now if it's stakeholder?
Absolutely. And I think I roughly emailed Noelle that we'll be doing that. And could she send out a notice to all town boards about that meeting? I mean, I'm sure Board of Health doesn't really care, but that's what we'll do. You've got that.
Okay. Yeah, because we won't be meeting.
I'm sorry, which meeting?
The 9th.
For all the town boards? The 9th?
Yeah.
Okay.
February 9th, right?
I don't have all their emails, and it shouldn't come from me. It should come from the town.
Brian, can I just go back to your statement about the license that we issued, the 5-year license at Woodford? I thought that had a 30-day revocable clause in it.
So Melissa, I'm going to ask you to bring that up. I don't think that's really a Conscom issue. It is
No,
revocable.
but you brought it up. You
No.
said it's non-revocable, and I don't think you're right about that.
It is revocable if there's cause, but there is no cause. I know people don't like it. Not liking it is not a cause. They haven't violated their agreement. So,
And I think this is the soil upon which the meeting with the select board is coming from, is like this sort of interplay of like how is this organized? Because I don't think that there is uniform agreement with how, for example, this particular license has played out among the Conscom, and ultimately we're responsible. That's how I'm reading the situation here, and so I'm putting it out. And I know you want to defer to February 9th, but this is coming back to us as well, these decisions, and so that's why I think it needs to be discussed here as well.
And it's on
January
our agenda
27th
for
meeting-
tonight, Brian.
Sorry, can I just finish? The January 27th meeting was to be a discussion of changes to our charter, not anything about the Woodward property.
No, I agree, but it was born out of that this issue arose, and so there was discussion about how does this interplay between LSC and Conscom work, and therefore the decisions that LSC makes. That's why. That's my understanding, and again, I reserve the right to be wrong, but that's my understanding. Is not that particular decision. I agree with you, that's a different topic, but this is the exact issue. And this is why discussing this in this forum, this issue is part of what I think will help me be an informed commissioner to know, okay, well, what are the issues? If I dissect this particular license and this issue and how it arose, like where the communication gaps were, who's making what decision, I can analyze that, and then I'll be more informed on that discussion of how things should interplay between these two committees moving forward. And so that's why I think it is healthy for us to discuss it openly here, because I need to understand as a commission, all my fellow commissioners, what does George think? What does Sylvia think? What does Melissa think? What does Nick think? What does Brian think, right? I need to understand that so that I can then more accurately have an opinion myself, to be honest, at the meeting on the 27th, to understand where did things fall apart.
We can't, but it would be great if Conscom can have a discussion about the whole issue. And then we're going to have a meeting on the 10th and we can discuss all those issues. So it'd be great if we got to discuss that.
It is on tonight's agenda.
So who is organizing the meeting on 27 January? Is it
I
the
don't
select
know.
board?
We've already told the select board LSC cannot attend.
Well, you can't bring a quorum, but you could send a representative or two.
We could, but we would like to know, for example, what they want to discuss. So we had no input from Conscom as to what they wanted to discuss. We had no input from the select board. We learned later that when they were talking about getting rid of me based on the
Residency
requirement,
yeah.
that they talked to Suki about how many members we had, but that's not a formal thing. And then there's a whole other set of discussions with Barney, who's our liaison to LSC, with Suki about changing our charter. And we just need to know what the plan is. We need to know what if Conscom wants to change our charter, we need to know that.
So I don't think.
Let me just finish.
Okay.
If the select board wants to change our charter, we just need the input so we can have a meeting and discuss it and be able to respond appropriately to a meeting, not on the 27th because we can't do it. We don't have enough people, but on another meeting to talk about what we think or what you think. I mean, we're basically, the LSC is basically the children of CONSCOM. So if CONSCOM wants to do something differently, absolutely, that's not, we're just the child,
I don't think that I don't think that I'm going to speak for myself. I don't have a particular set of edits to the charter that I am looking to, implement. I don't think that that's the case, that this meeting is to finalize any changes. I think it is to have just a pure discussion, a starting point of like, okay, here are the issues. How do we think it should be structured? And do changes need to be made? And you're not going to get everybody in the room every single meeting. So I think the discussion, again, my understanding is that it is a starting point of a discussion about how do we avoid issues in the future, and how can we structure things so that the issues are minimized. And so I don't think that this is coming with like an agenda, like each party's coming with an agenda of like, this is what we think. It is just, here are the issues. How do we begin to understand this and like the contours of it, the contours of this arrangement?
I
Okay,
hear you,
well,
but
Just a
there is-
discussion which doesn't require a quorum, and I think it would be helpful if members of the LSC attended, even if a quorum cannot be achieved.
You don't
They
have to come to the
We need
meeting.
the
but-
background. We need the background. We don't hear. I've now.
Why do you need background?
I don't know what the background is
You
either.
don't need
Brian.
background. Just go
Brian,
to the
I don't know
meeting.
the background
Just
either.
go to the meeting. You don't need a background or an agenda or a quorum or a formal invitation. Just come and listen.
Hold on. Just like George would not be happy, I'm the chair of LSC, and I learned that there were side discussions with Barney to change our charter to only support agriculture for food production, meaning to get rid of the Woodward property current license. And I never heard about that. I need someone to share with me that information. I need to know if the select board only wants us to change from 12 members to 10, that's not an issue.
So Brian, this is a select board meeting that they're calling. So we need to query the select board and say, what is on the agenda for this portion of your meeting?
And I've asked that question.
Or just come and listen, right? If you're frustrated
Well,
about
no,
people
I
talking
want to
about
be
Okay,
prepared.
so I
if you're
have the
frustrated
email
about
up
people
from
talking
Scott.
about LSC when you're not present, not attending those meetings is not a good way to resolve that issue.
Yes, so I have the email up from Scott right now, and the purpose of the meeting will be to review the most recent LSC charter and discuss the various recommendations, questions, and concerns that have been raised by various stakeholders over the past few months. And he says that full attendance is encouraged. Having a quorum of CONSCOM and LSC members present will be important for this discussion to inform go-forward decisions that may be made. So I would say you should probably have most of the people that can attend the meeting. The discussion is going to take place regardless if a quorum is present or not. And I kind of think that we need to move on from this discussion because it's going in circles.
I agree. I just don't have enough LSC members who are ready to discuss it, and we don't know what the issues are. We learned that there was some.
We're going to find out what
How
the
do I find
concerns
out
are.
before the meeting, though?
You won't find out if you don't go.
I'm happy to go. I just don't have a whole group. Anyway, maybe we should table this. I let him know I couldn't have a quorum, but I will let him know again, Scott, know that I will attend, but I don't have a group to discuss anything. Short notice, and we have a plan on the
You
10th.
can
We don't have another
discuss
meeting.
without having a quorum, right?
All right, can you say that again?
You can discuss without having a quorum,
Absolutely, we just can't make a decision.
right? You can't vote as a LSC, correct,
Exactly. Yeah. All
without
right.
a quorum, but you can certainly have conversation,
Absolutely.
right? And learn what's in their heads and what other
I'm
people.
not against that. I just don't have, we haven't, I can only give my own opinion as one person of LSC. I don't have a group opinion because we haven't been able to meet.
Right.
Do you want me to address the last item in the LSC updates about the quote from Stamsky and McNary? Or are we still
I'd love to.
want to discuss this? Okay.
On a better note, yeah.
I just wanted to make the commission aware that I requested a quote from Stamsky and McNary for a topographical survey plan of Woodward land. And this is in response to a CCF letter from October. And the letter was discussed at a CONSCOM meeting in November, and then a stakeholder meeting with reps from CCF, CRAC, LSC, and CONCOM was held in December. So I sent in a quote, and I'm expecting to hear back from them soon. And once I get that quote, I'll let all stakeholders know what the price is and how we're planning to fund that as a town. So that's that update. And then I don't have any other updates for LSC, but we'll see if anyone else does.
Thank you, Megan. So what she's talking about is that we learned that there are 3 lots actually of the Woodward property, and the one to the north never had a full survey, never had a conservation restriction, and we literally at one point we didn't even know where it all is. So Megan, with input from Trails and CCF and LSC, but not much from us, went back to Stamsky and said, can you make us a plan? Because it's really hard to lease land to somebody that you don't even know what you've got. So that's what she's trying to resolve.
Well, I think we've beat this item to death. Those that can, I think, should join the select board on the 27th. If nothing else, as an information gathering issue and learn what the topics are, and then maybe we can go back and do some research. So in the meantime, I think we table this discussion and move on to the discussion number 6, revised wetland bylaw.
So George, before you do, just can you make it clear that if we're not going to have a quorum of the LSC, do you need to invite a quorum? I mean, not that everybody isn't welcome to attend, but there's no need for a quorum of the CONSCOM at that meeting because it's not going to be some big decision, right?
Well, LSC cannot make a decision, and it's 1/3 of that meeting. So yes, it's not going to be a formal.
I'm gonna check
vote.
in with the select board on that, and I will get back to you all. I'll
Yeah,
send
we
an
should
email
double check.
tomorrow.
Yeah, because if we do have a quorum of CONSCOM people and we feel we have a decision we want to make, we certainly authorized to do it in a joint meeting with a quorum. So, yeah.
Well, the question is, will LSC can
We vote separately from LSC, right?
Right.
No, I understand, but we're talking about their charter.
We're talking about our charter, our chartering of LSC. It's our charter.
Exactly. We're the ones who ultimately are the ones
Responsible.
voting.
Absolutely.
Okay. I stand corrected.
That would be really difficult if CONSCOM, without consulting LSC, change LSC's charter. I mean, that's really slapping the child in the face, but whatever. We can take over Greenland too. I won't go there, sorry.
Well, I'd be curious to see what the select board is trying to address and where they want to head. So if nothing else, it'd be a good information meeting. So I'm planning to attend.
Great.
All right. I see Megan's jumped ahead.
Yes. So next is the discussion of the revised wetland bylaw. and we were asked to put together a list of different boards and committees and their meeting dates. So Noel put this together for us. So, you can see the list would be CPC, Trails, Planning, Select Board, LSC, Historic, ESC, Board of Health. I guess the only committee that's not on there is CRAC, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it's relevant.
Crack's they've already been to crack.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Noel laid out the meeting dates in February and March, in case the commission decides it's doable for us to do kind of a tour of these committees and boards and letting them know about our revised bylaw and get any feedback from them. I reached out to town council again, asking if they had a timeline on when their feedback would be provided, but I still haven't heard, so still waiting on their feedback. So I just wanted to provide this information to the commission, so we can have a better understanding of if we have time to have this on the annual town meeting as a warrant article, or if the timetable doesn't make sense. But I just thought we'd lay out the dates for you that are available.
All right. The lead spokesman for this has been Alex, and I don't know what his schedule is. I was under the impression that we were not going to present it in the fall. No, I guess it is the fall that we want to do it. We were trying to push for spring, and now we're backing off to the fall time period. Okay.
That's what he said at the last meeting.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, our February is pretty busy.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and the question is, who is the proper spokesman to go collect the information from these various boards?
I believe last year that Dan was also going to the meetings with Alex to advertise them.
Correct.
Unfortunately, he's not here tonight. But it seems like this may be something we push forward a couple months, just to make sure it's like fresh in the board's mind, so that if we bring it to the fall town meeting, they're not like, what is the wetlands bylaw update? Because they were briefed on it like so long ago. Does that sound more appropriate?
I was literally about to recommend that, because people, there's a lot of detail in there, and keeping it fresh in everybody's mind. Maybe not right up to the
town meeting,
but a little bit of buffer, but closer to it. And you never want to not be at a meeting because you'll be volunteered for things. But I think I do think Dan, with his unique skill set, would be ideal with George and Alex. But I'm not speaking for them, but I would love for him to represent, because he can speak more eloquently about this than any of us could.
So
one thing I think is also important to consider is I know that the last time the bylaw was presented to, I think specifically the Board of Health, there was quite a bit of feedback. And so I guess the question would be, with that feedback and any other feedback we might get from, say, the planning board, and if we get feedback from town council, it sounds like we'll probably have to do a revision. So it might be important to think about if we want to present everything first and get feedback and make one revision, or
that's a good point.
Make a revision off of feedback we get now and then present the revised version. Because I'm sure we'll keep getting feedback.
Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't even think of that. So maybe this is like the first round, and then revise, and then a second round closer to.
Yeah, and it could be some of the boards don't have any feedback, and we're like, okay, and they support the effort. Like I know ESC said that they're supportive of like the overall scope of the revision. So like a board like that probably would be easier, but like a Board of Health, Planning, Select Board, and Town Council, you kind of want to make sure that they're all supportive. of the effort. So maybe February isn't the right time because it feels like that's literally right around the corner and I'm not sure anyone's prepared for that. But maybe if we think of like March, April-ish.
I think that's a good idea, Megan, so that we can like advertise it in the spring, get the feedback and work on it, make a red line version in the summer. And then maybe send that around again before town meeting so it's to the board so they can just review like whatever we've changed. Maybe we don't have to like go to the meeting and present it again. Just
Mhm.
show that we've like incorporated their feedback, you know?
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
that's good.
that's
The summer has a way of disappearing really fast, and then all of a sudden it's town meeting. So I think crunching probably late March and April, not too close to town meeting, but who knows?
Mhm.
And then doing some work and then going back in the early fall.
But is there gonna be a full town meeting? Because that's a special town meeting, right?
I
Right.
think it's likely.
Yeah, I've been hearing
It's
rumors.
likely. Oh, that's good
Yeah.
time. That's better. Well, that would be
Yeah.
good timing for us.
Yeah.
I know there was feedback from the Board of Health after Alex and Dan went and presented to them, and I don't know where that stands. You know, whether they incorporated or felt they could or couldn't, I'm not sure.
I think they
Yeah,
had some real concerns. Crack thought it wasn't strong enough.
I'm hearing things through the grapevine.
Yeah.
Also, I think there's some concerns. So we need to make sure that we aren't that we aren't making it more difficult for those who would like to do good works to get the good works done.
Mhm.
That's one plan. I was wondering if maybe Conservation Commission could convene a meeting with all these other boards and get the feedback all at one time. And that way the individual boards could see what the other boards were thinking and maybe
That-
chime in.
That
good
sounds
idea.
like a logistical nightmare to getting all the people together, but like also the potential chaos or opposite crickets in the room because nobody.
All right. I just thought I'd throw that
Can
out.
we do that though, George? I like the idea. Can we do it via kind of a, annotated red line somehow without violating OML?
That I don't know.
know.
I feel like I'm probably on the side of taking the approach of copying whatever planning board did for MBTA.
Yes.
Because it seems like, at the end of the day, everyone in town was aware of what was happening. Every board knew, you know what I mean? It was very educational. Everyone knew what was going
Yeah.
on. So I'm
Actually,
trying to take a page out of their book.
I agree with you, but I think the simpler pattern match might be ADU, the ADU discussion,
Okay.
right? Because that was less fraught with state direction, misdirection, redirection.
Yes, yeah. I don't
Right?
want to go through that part.
And I know they used a red line because I attended one or two of the meetings and they were presenting a red. There was a red line on the screen. So whatever magic Julie worked for to streamline that process
Mhm.
might be helpful. But anyway,
Yeah. Agreed.
and they went through all the boards too. So
Mhm. Okay, so maybe we'll put together an updated list of like March, April meetings as best as we can predict. And then we can maybe at the next meeting, or I can ask offline if maybe it's better to do it at the next meeting. If any commissioners are willing to participate in presenting to those boards, I know specifically Dan did last time, can ask Alex Perrin if anyone else is willing, just so we can make sure that we're prepared. But in the meantime, we can put together that list and timeline for you
Schedule,
all.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be great, Megan. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Let's see, it's only 9:40. We got plenty of time to finish up this schedule here.
hopefully we can get through the next stuff pretty quick. So
Yeah, this stuff should be quick.
I reached out to stakeholders to ask for them to submit their feedback on the Zoo New England grant proposal. We requested that the feedback be returned to us by 2/2. I haven't received any feedback yet, but then we will have that discussion at our 2/12 meeting. Does anybody have any questions? All right, so
Not I. Item 8.
so next thing that's just informational, the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs has declared a level 2 significant drought. It's been that's actually kind of funny because it's been snowing so much lately. But that's actually nothing new. We've been in a drought for kind of quite some time now.
Right.
And then a follow-up to a recent wetlands application that you had was that the planning board approved of an ADU at 106 Maple Street. It's conditional upon Board of Health septic compliance. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I misspoke. You guys did not have a filing for that one.
Yeah.
I was
So,
thinking of
yeah.
Sunset Road because that came in at the same time. So you did not have to delineate this one. There's no wetlands involved. This was just informational because the Conservation Commission is in a butter. So if anybody has any concerns about that, you can review the decision. And then another correspondence is that the Conservation Office has received a report from Carlisle resident titled, "Should farmers be allowed to use pesticides on Carlisle conservation lands?"
Yeah, and I can chime in on this. I just added this to the agenda to recognize that we received this correspondence from a resident. But if the commission wants us to include this item on a future agenda for more discussion, I'm happy to add it.
Can you forward that to LLC as well? Because we're theoretically managing the town lands. We'd like to know.
It's
Okay.
Warren's. It's Warren's opus.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Right.
couldn't hear you, Sylvia. What?
It's Warren's document.
Okay, sorry.
You must have it.
We have it. No problem.
Okay.
And it's a long read.
Yes.
No, actually,
Very
some
long.
of us have it. I can't say the full LLC has it or the town has it, but okay, now I know who you're talking about. Thanks.
Well, it's on the Conservation Commission website, so
It's in our packet if you want to read
right,
it.
right.
And then there's just a little staff update, and Megan wrote up a quick summary for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to give the commission an update on how the Conservation Office is functioning now. There have been some changes in the past couple years, and the town has decided to utilize shared staff for many departments, kind of as a cost saver to the town. So obviously Noelle is with us, and she shares her time between conservation and planning, which is great. And then we now have Sarah Wasserman, who was or is the land use and sustainability coordinator. She was previously helping in the building department, but now she'll be sharing her time with the conservation department instead. So in addition to her previous responsibilities involving sustainability, now she'll be helping create long-term management plans for conservation land. And I think maybe next week she's starting to meet with our town administrator and I believe LSC, Brian. I'm not really looped into it right now, but
I
she's
don't
really
know,
gonna
but
start
that'd be
digging
so
in
helpful
on that.
because we were trying to get a grant to get money to talk about management plans for the town lands.
Yeah.
I guess she'd probably be ideal, right?
Yes, exactly. I think that's really going to be what she's going to be focused on is doing an inventory of conservation land. And of course, it's not, this isn't something that's going to happen in like a year. It's years and years long process of coming up with management plans for each conservation land and just to reference what you were talking about earlier about whether or not we use herbicides on certain lands, I'm thinking that's something that would be addressed. And it doesn't mean that she'd be making those decisions. It just means she'd be facilitating with different stakeholders, coming up with a plan that gets voted on by those stakeholders, and then the town can move forward with that plan. So really
It would
just
be really,
streamline.
really great if she could talk to Warren Lyman before he leaves. He's
Okay.
he is about to move to Lincoln into whatever it's called, assisted living
or
housing.
yeah.
And he's like Sylvie is for Conscom. He is the the Google of LSC. I think he started LSC. It'd
No,
be
I did
really-
actually.
Right?
I did actually.
Okay.
It was my concept.
So anyway, if she could speak to him before he goes, that would be just amazing to try to get that little bit brain done. And maybe some from Sylvia as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
Awesome.
of
I'll
the
definitely let
things
her know.
one of the things that's important to note is the land stewards have done a great job of coming up with what's called baseline assessments on several of the properties, but not all of them. And they are an accumulation of data and history and mapping, etc. The management plan is usually smaller than these big documents that are baselines, but they have to be approved under a public hearing. They don't just happen. They have to have a public hearing for that.
All right. Well, thank you for the staff update. And should we move on to review of Conservation Department's annual town report?
Before you do on staff updates, I sometimes send things to Noel and I copy Megan, and I don't really want to burden Megan with it. Like if I want to send I don't know, an LSC agenda, should I copy Megan or should I only send it to Noel?
I think what you're doing works. If you're sending it primarily to Noel, you can CC me. It's not a burden
Okay, I
at
just
all.
want to like annoy you with a million emails.
No, it doesn't annoy me. It helps me know like what's happening, even if I don't have time to like read through it all. I'm at least like, oh, okay, they're having a meeting.
Okay, thanks.
So it is helpful.
I didn't
Never a
want to be
burden.
spam.
No, never, never.
Yeah, even if Megan doesn't respond, it's good for her to at least know. But
Yeah.
Thanks.
no problem. And then
Town
we have
report. Yeah.
I never
Our
saw the town report.
Oh, really?
It
No,
was in the packet.
I looked all down through it several times and I never saw it.
I added it on Tuesday, so it wasn't in there for very long.
Oh,
But so yeah, so Noelle helped draft this, which is great. I obviously wasn't here for for half of 2025. Um so I tried my best to include what I found happened earlier in the year, and then of course what happened since I've been here. But so if the commission has any other things that they would like noted in the town report, that'd be great feedback. These numbers are highlighted because I just have to check with Kelly to make sure they're accurate. But so this is our chart of our activity compared to the other years. It's generally lower than the previous years. I'm not sure if it's because of like staff turnover or what happened, but it'll be interesting to see what 2026 shows. And then I have a section about the cranberry bog, and
the beavers, yeah.
about our beavers, how we adopted a management plan and hope to monitor the site to avoid, capturing beavers. And then an update on the dam repair and where that's at. We got our permission from ODS for that revised Chapter 253 permit this year. Hope to start construction in 2026. And then I also have a section about the H&H study, because the commission hired Weston and Sampson in 2025, and this study is ongoing, but results are anticipated in 2026. Then we have a snippet about Greeno Conservation Land, and I only put in the H&H study for Greeno Conservation Land. I wasn't aware of any other big projects that the commission undertook in 2025.
I'm glad we're not talking about the cupola.
Not the cupola. No, we beat that horse dead too, I think. Okay, there should be a period there. All right. And then some initiatives. So we talk about how we're still trying to get the wetland bylaw revised, some significant changes to staff, and honoring Sylvia's 20 plus years of service. Now she's a commissioner, so we mentioned that. And
It was
yes, and she was
25.
also
It was 25 years to the day.
25 to the day? Okay.
Yep.
I'm fixing that right now. Got it. So yeah, those were kind of the big things that I could recollect or gather. To my understanding, LSC is submitting their own report, so I didn't go into all the land management stuff, really just Conservation Commission based initiatives and wetland filings that are noteworthy. So if anyone has anything else they'd like included, I'm happy to incorporate that.
I just want to mention, having come from Cohasset, that if you scroll down a little bit, I'm so glad that we don't have to deal with the denials and the lawsuits, because we had them all the time. It was just like half our life was lawsuits and depositions, and thank God in this town we're able to resolve things with the applicants.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
All right, well, thank you. So if anybody has any comments, you have a few days to pass them back to Megan and Noel.
Yes, it's due January 30th, which is a Friday. So the end of the month. So feel free to send Noel or I an email with anything you'd like incorporated.
Can you send me the Word document in an email?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Either that or I missed it. I've been in what I've been calling email hell for the last week.
Yeah, I can send it.
Too much or too little?
What'd you say?
Too much or too little email?
No, my husband's email failed in some sort of a weird transfer from Comcast over to something else, and it's fallen off the radar screen. And they will fix it. It's their mess.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So the last topic we have is the CPC updates. Who attended that meeting?
That's me. That's me. So that meeting was earlier in the week. The deadline for a CPC application is on the 2nd, and there are potential applications for the library, increased construction costs, the Highland building, town clerk for preservation of and digitization of historic documents, potential for green cemetery historic status determination, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know all those acronyms that they were talking about. CCHS amenities building, the Cranberry Bog House, legal expenses, Carlisle Affordable Housing Trust for the Bog House, and the Council on Aging and Human Resources rental assistance. CCF had thought that they would be submitting a application to cover the legal expenses for the Woodward CR, and in talking with Melinda yesterday, they've decided that it's too long and they will handle that themselves. So that's off the table. That's it. The deadline is noon, February 2nd for any application, and they make their decision going forward on the 4th. That's the next CPC meeting.
Thank you, Sylvia. 2-4. All right. Were there any comments or issues that any members of the CONSCOM would like to put forward? Then can I get it? Go ahead.
Are you sorry? We have one more item that I added late for the Foss Farm Community
Oh,
Garden.
yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, I got
It
it.
was on the January 8th agenda, and even on that agenda, it said it would be on this agenda, but I somehow still forgot to put it on this agenda. So I snuck it on at the end. So thanks, Jonathan, for sitting through this meeting for this point. But looking for a vote to approve the revised 2026 garden rules, and if there is any, provide feedback on the Foss Farm Community Garden 2025 annual report, which both of those items were discussed at the last meeting. And I think Jonathan wanted to give the commission time to review if they had any comments. So hoping to get those voted on tonight.
So Jonathan, can you summarize? Because you already did tell us, and we voted for it, but can you just inform the commission?
Sure. So the rules are essentially identical to the 2025 rules with one exception. I've introduced the concept of small plots. The small plots are there to handle new gardeners and elderly gardeners who can't garden as much and people who are away a lot. So I'm trying to make the gardens more inclusive, and one way to do that is to have smaller plots that some people could use rather than be responsible for such huge plots as to what we currently have. So the concept of smaller plots will be about 100 square feet as opposed to 750 square feet. And so I'm hoping that more people who are interested in gardening will come out and join the community gardens, and we'll see how it works. And so that's the main change. And the only other change that I've added onto there is an optional query to the gardeners to find out who's interested in going no-till and how much they're interested. And the goal of that is to try to set up a working group of the gardeners so that we can work through all the complex details of what it would mean if we had part of the gardens in no-till and part that were tilled.
And you submitted this to LSC and we voted for it, correct?
Correct. LSC voted at the last meeting, which was last Thursday, and they voted to approve it modulo any changes that the Conservation Commission wanted to make. So if you have any other changes you'd like me to make, that would be great. Otherwise, I do need a vote on this tonight so that we can get it onto the town website. Sarah tells me that we're already getting applicants coming in, and so it's a good idea that we get the official version out so that it's in proper form.
So one quick question. We had a certain number of the large plots. In order to accommodate the small plots, is that an additional area, or are you going to take some of the large plots and cut them up into smaller plots?
We're going to cut up the large plots into smaller plots. Essentially,
okay.
What is a given large plot can be subdivided into 4 small plots.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Sorry?
So moved, yeah.
Oh, okay. You can guess the rest.
Second.
Ryan and Sylvia. Fill in the dots. All right. So can I get a roll call vote? Navneet.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
Sylvia.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn the Conservation Commission
So moved.
meeting?
Second.
Yes, Nebney? Oh, okay.
Second,
Yep, I just written down names. And we'll take a roll call vote. Everybody say aye.
aye.
Navneet?
Aye.
Sorry, I have to do it a roll call. Nick?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Sylvia?
Aye.
And if Dan were here, he'd say aye too. The chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you all.
Good night.
I have to say that when Jonathan said small plots, I thought he said introducing smallpox.
No, that's smallpox. That's a disease, isn't it?
That was Lord
We
Jeffrey.
don't need another
I'm afraid to
pandemic.
say that was Lord Jeffrey out in Amherst who killed the Indians. So that was a different.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.